Stage 1 is upon us, and we're going to be covering all of the regions except for APAC and China because, unfortunately, due to the time zone, we're not able to watch it. And we're going to talk about drama. We're going to talk about expectations. We're going to talk about teams that should be doing well and aren't. We're going to talk about teams that are doing well that should be, and we're going to be talking about the teams that are doing well and probably shouldn't be doing well, yet are still near the top. Not that I say you want to hate watch, to quote our good friend Mint, who's not on this episode. You might notice in between Fett and I, there's a semi-new face. He's been on this show before. We've invited MikeW on to cover Mint as Mint is replacing Foxe on the NAL desk. Things that we're going to talk about today. What the heck is going on with Aiden Tax? Why is he doing so poorly? What is going on with Team Secret? How is Kaysen and 100 Thieves doing? And most importantly, what the hell is going on with Fett's face? Everybody welcome into Down But Not Out. Interro, Fett, and MikeW here today. Mike, you're not a guest. You are a guest co-host. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
He's a man short of words, but he's going to make you laugh today, just like Fett will while he stims and plays. Fett, what are you going to be playing today?
At some point, I'll load up the deathmatch.
When he gets bored.
I'm not there yet. I'm locked in right now.
We're early. We're like 2 minutes into the episode. Let's just kick things right off by talking about EML. For those that are wondering what the rest of the agenda is today, we're going to go over ranked 3.0 because that's been a lightning rod of criticism by people spread across the community. Some people love it. Some people are really upset that they're not as good as they thought. We're going to talk about the Dokkaebi rework. Is she too strong? Survey says yes. Ubisoft has admitted as such and are going to be nerfing her pretty quickly. We're going to talk about Calypso. That's the new casino map. Mike, you've played it in ranked, presumably.
Yeah, I've had a good amount of experience on it.
Nice. You play like 5 games in a row.
Yeah, that is the experience because you can't ban it. So, I mean, non-stop casino. That's all.
What a treat. What a treat that is. And then, of course, we're going to talk about just other regular stuff that comes up. So buckle in. There's not really like any salient drama or anything like that for this episode. It's mostly going to be a stage 1 recap, as the chevron below me says. Let's start with EML. Let's kick things off right away. We'll have the play day results on your screen. EML just finished their final play day yesterday for the week. They'll be back in action some point next week. We're recording this show on a Wednesday night, which means that when you watch it, it'll presumably be Friday morning. So there will be an NAL day that we've missed as well. But unfortunately, that's just the way this show functions. On your screen are the play day results. Play days 1 and 2 happened last week. Play day 3 and 4 today. There are some surprising results. On the first day, the big result that I think stunned most people was Rebels defeating Team Falcons 8-6. That would be my go-to. You could also argue that Heretics 7-2ing Team Secret was quite a surprise. And it was a rough go for Team Secret, who yet again made some roster moves. They shipped Nathan Citizen off of the team. They've got a relatively young squad now. Gentlemen, as the resident ball knowers, what the hell is going on with Team Secret?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I think they just got outmoneyed at the end of their season. They had a EWC win and a second place at SI, and then Falcons bought their best player, or didn't buy, I guess, just outbid their best player, and then they got the RGO who invented it, like the whole new EU play style and meta ripped from their hands, and they got like their MVP. So like Adrian was the MVP of EWC. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people are like, oh, who's Adrian? Adrian who? It's like he's the MVP of EWC. That guy went to wildcard. Everyone went to greener pastures and greener and sense of financial stability because, well, I guess the org just doesn't care. Like I don't know what else to say. I remember literally, I think Noah or Twister or someone on the team that was on the team, I think it was Savage, tweeted out that like when the roster moves were happening, when Joom and Adrian left, he was just like, okay, well, money rules the world, I guess. Because at the end of the day, it does, and it's just sad to see. I mean, it just you got to feel for the guys. They were literally one of the championship contenders last year. They revolutionized the meta, and now they're getting dumpstered by Heretics. Sorry, Heretics.
Technically by everybody. Fed.
Yes.
Yes. Mostly because they lost all of their games. And presuming that the play day results are still on your screen, we can just go through very quickly. Teams here are getting a lot of the later matches. On play day number 1, obviously a loss to Team Heretics 7-2. Things did not get better, losing to Shifters 7-4. Then a 7-2 loss to Falcons before capping off their week with a 7-4 loss to Rebels. It's not that they're losing, it's how they are losing. And frankly, to the teams they're losing against. I think it's pretty fair to say that a lot of the teams they've played so far are the also rans of EML. These are not teams that you expect to be competing at the top. Falcons obviously is, but nobody's got Rebels, Shifters, or Heretics as a top 5 team, I think, at the moment. So things are going bad. Mike, I mean, obviously you watch the games, you know a thing or two about teams. What's your eye test with Team Secret? Is it that they're all rookies? Are they nervous? Is their system suck?
I mean, I think again with what Fed said, like, I mean, you're losing your crucial players, the people who are building that system. But also we're in the second year of having relegations back. So I think part of it is you're losing some of the T2 talent or the less developed talent to be able to pull from if you're not pulling from those lower teams, which they haven't. So I think their team being a revolving door is hurting them, number one. And number two, I don't know. I think that they don't have like a set like identity. Like I don't see anybody on that team, and I'm like, this guy is going to create a system and create something new that's going to work.
And they've got a relatively young team, right? Like Oscar's obviously been around the block before, but doesn't have a ton of experience. Flexi was on that Heretics roster that played at SI, if memory serves correctly, on the Project Zero team. Mike, you know him from the Spoit Invitational. And then you've got Drills, who has never played real T1 ball. If you look at his list of teams that he's played with, he's a rookie. You basically got Mowgli and Noah as the two remaining members, with Twister on the coaching staff. We had Citizen on the most recent show, and he talked a little bit about Team Secret, and obviously we take our guess at their word, so we don't know the inner workings, but it seemed that Citizen pointed a lot of fingers at the coaching staff and said that, the system isn't really working. They're quite stubborn. They want you to play their style, that they don't really accept a lot of input when you bring like Citizen and Nafe on that team. That gets a little bit challenging because people know Nafe as like, he was one of the main voices on DarkZero when Troy was on the team. And then when Troy moved off, he was doing a lot of the calling and leadership was on him. Now, obviously, Nafe has moved over to Shifters, and Shifters is, to their credit, doing, better than Team Secret, but not by a huge margin. And of course, the other thing about Team Secret, like you said, there's no real identity to that team. It could be that this is just like a transitionary period until they get to stage 2 where they can find some better players. I think the big thing that hampers Team Secret isn't even about a system. It's about the org itself. I've heard rumblings from players time and time again that Team Secret just doesn't really open their wallet for players. So, I mean, if you're losing Joom to Falcons because of a budgetary issue, most people are going to go to Falcons. They have endless money. But at the same time, like, if you're a Team Secret, you're a huge organization. You're big in a lot of esports. You're huge in Dota. Like, you need to be able to open that checkbook and write a check for a good player, unless you're going to be a bottom feeder team. And when you finish second at SI, I think it's really hard to justify, poor wages if that's the real reason why a lot of people aren't going over there. Combine it with potentially bad coaching, or not bad coaching, but coaching that players don't necessarily like. Again, assuming that's what Citizen said is true. And it's just a really rough mix, which frankly, that latter part's a bit surprising because Twister has received a ton of praise from people all over the board. So the fact that, you could point fingers at him, maybe there are other issues at play there. Was Team Secret the big surprise for either of you through EML? Were there other teams that jumped to mind? Because keep in mind, we got Virtus Pro right now sitting at the top. Fnatic is in third. That's a bit of a shocker, especially after their first matchup. So is there anybody that's not named Team Secret that you want to talk about in EML?
I just want to say I don't think Team Secret's a surprise. I think they essentially downgraded to what looks like a tier 2 team. Like, if you all in all, like, no disrespect to the players whatsoever, but experience-wise, it's what it is. And when you have that little experience, you have to start from scratch again. Now, it's just frustrating. You have to, the reason I feel bad for Noah and Twister is because they've built that from scratch. So they were shitting the bed, or not necessarily shitting the bed, but they had to slowly but surely increase their results little by little with the original Savage, Adrian, Joom roster, because those players were considered like tier 2 fresh tier 2 inexperienced players, and they had to slowly but surely like grind their way up. Noah was essentially a nobody on Into the Breach, right? And it's like, you have to think, he had to grind his way up, and now I think everyone regards him as kind of like the superstar of that team, but it's like he had to grind his way up, and it's just they have to start from zero again, which is really frustrating because you can't afford a better starting point. That's literally what it is. And when they if they ever do build back up, their players are going to get taken away out of their hands again. So it's just like, it's just sad. It's sad. It was expected, but it's just sad. And I really hope maybe the org thinks and maybe invests a bit more, because I think it pays off in dividends. I think it shows the quality of players you can get when you just go from like even 2,000 USD to 3,000 USD. I don't know how much they're getting paid, right? But I did have a conversation with my stream a while ago when the roster rumors were happening about like what amount of money, like what percentage increase from your existing salary would you take to go from a better team to a worse team? Because let's face it, Secret had a more successful 2025, 2026 year than Falcons, right? Like, they won, and then they got second place. What amount of money would you take? And the answer was like a double, and I'm pretty sure June got doubled, if not more. That being said, I think Fnatic is a surprise. I think, like, obviously, Citizen, I'm really glad you had him on the show. I didn't watch it, so I hope you can, like, summarize it for me, but Fnatic...
Thanks.
Yeah. Fnatic, a lot of people, like, look down on Citizen's effect on teams because it seems like he's had a string of negative results with teams, and a lot of people point fingers at his attitude. And I think it's really cool for the show to give him a chance to speak his voice. Sorry, I didn't have the time to watch it again, but they're currently up there. Granted, the teams that they have beaten necessarily aren't the top dogs, and the one quote unquote top dog team they have faced, Virtus Pro, 7-1 them. Granted, I will give it that this Playday 1. Playday 1 is typically when shakes happen. But every other team typically is basically fighting for that 4th, 5th spot, essentially. And yeah, that's really it. Well, 5th spot now, because I think top 4 in my head are reasonably Falcons, VP, G2, and Twisted Minds.
I mean, I think I agree with the Secret thing not being surprising. They're another org that seems like it's almost like they're on their way out the door. And I mean, I know less about Secret across other titles, but I see them kind of similar to Cloud9. Like, this is an org I've grown up seeing, hearing of, right? They have a great reputation behind them, but they're not willing to spend the money. And again, I'm not familiar with what they're doing across other titles, but we've seen like C9 be less and less prevalent in other titles, and really downgrading their salaries. And I don't know, it just makes me, I mean, I feel like it's hard to win on a team that's in that kind of environment, or a part of that kind of organization, because you're not going to be able to get the players that you always want, and you always have, like, in the back of your head, like, you could be gone soon, or you might lose a teammate soon, because they're always willing to just move people for money.
We've referred to them as feeder orgs, where teams will join a scene and really all they want to do is pick up aspiring players, compete. Maybe they go on a surprise run, but they just don't really have the budget or the institutional support to be a top team. So they will, they'll grab up and coming players and then sell them.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think this team Secret isn't looking to do that. I mean, for crying out loud, they're in the R6 share program. Like, if you're in the R6 share program, you should be spending money. I think that's pretty much a universal belief. I honestly feel like it doesn't matter what you're in. If you're in our esport or you're in any esport period, you should be spending money. If you don't have the money to do it, then you shouldn't just be like a tourist, and Cloud9 obviously gets a lot of flack for it. And, I think I'm reasonably certain I shared it on the podcast somewhat recently that, there was, I think it was Ghost Gaming was kicking the tires at picking up a team, and it was just like, they basically said, well, if we're not getting an R6 share, then, fuck this esport. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? Like, I honestly, I appreciate your transparency, but at the end of the day, I think if you come into this scene, you should be here to try and grow with the game. Say what you will about DarkZero, say what you will about the old Sonics roster, say what you will about like G2 or FaZe or even Team Liquid. Like, their commitment to our esport has, I think, really just never been in jeopardy. And it's like, I'm with you, Mike. Like, I knew Cloud9 before I'd ever cast it. I didn't really know esports a ton before I got into it, but I remember Cloud9 and I was like, oh, sweet. Like, they're coming into like to the NAL, and they're picking up, like Goddess and Fox and Laxing, and they're going to be like prominent. And, they had a really great team behind them. And now it just seems like Cloud9 is dropping out of a lot of esports. I actually just pulled it up. It looks like Team Secret has really contracted as well. I don't honestly like. I'm struggling to see, frankly, what esports they're in. But I guess my issues with Team Secret, and I'm curious to know, if you guys saw this when the whole Virtue drop happened. The CEO tweeted what appeared to be a photo of Virtue crying and almost mocking him for it. And I think it was the CEO, could have been the owner, could have been the founder. Honestly, I don't want to misattribute this to to somebody else, but I certainly saw that and I was like, if I was playing for an org that mocked me because I was so passionate that I cried after a loss, that org could go fuck themselves. I don't care what org it is. Especially when a lot of orgs trip over themselves to talk about how important mental health is. Like you can't be like, oh, culture and mental health is so important to us, but also like mock their players for caring too much. Like I don't think you can have that both ways. And I remember at Paris SI, after this team finished second, one of the first things I thought was, oh wow, like these guys are going to be on the ascendancy. And I talked to a couple of the players and I talked to some other teams and they said there's a very high likelihood of us losing at least June, maybe more, because Team Secret won't offer a competitive salary. And obviously that sucks, because it's like, Mike, this is actually a good point to talk to you about this. You grinded your way to tier 1 and then you had to play orgless for kickoff. Now you have an org. I'm not going to lie, you're playing for Fun Esports, which I'd never heard of before they picked you guys up. I'm not asking you to reveal anything here, but I can't imagine that you're playing, you're being paid the same as a Shopify Rebellion squad. But I have to imagine there comes a time where, yeah, winning is great, but you're not going to keep playing on a team if you're paid like garbage. You're eventually going to want to start making some money and hopefully compete at the same time. So I guess this question goes to you here, because you've now seen what it's like to play without a salary, and now you're playing with a salary. I have to imagine a lot of players would choose money because you don't know how long you're going to be around for, right? Like you need to pay your bills. You can't just play for free.
I mean, 100%, especially in an esport like Siege, where you're not only like fighting, trying to get a better salary, you're trying to get a livable salary. We're not Counter-Strike, we're not, whatever other esport, right, where, we have decades of history, and, tons of tournaments for, tons of opportunities to make money like off of tournament earnings. And Siege salaries, I mean, quite honestly, it's one of the most important things. Year to year, our years look different with tournaments all the time, and the only thing that is going to be consistent is that salary that you signed for. I just think that's the biggest thing, is having a salary to play for. My God, Jesus, I forgot what I was thinking.
Brother, it happens. Let me recenter this. I mean, because I completely agree with your point of view here. It's not about being paid. You need to live off of that.
Yes.
Like that's the big thing.
Yeah, because you're in an esport and you don't have longevity in the first place, and in R6, like I said, like you don't necessarily like probably more than half the teams aren't making a livable wage. The trade-off in things like esports, or you see it in more traditional sports, is you make a lot of money up front or early on, and you're able to live off that. But I mean, in Siege, you're fighting for a livable salary, and maybe if you're on the upper top tier teams, then you are able to make that kind of money where you can make decisions that aren't so based around salary, if that makes sense. For example, I can think of like CS, right? I'm a big CS fan, so I follow that esport, love it. But you look at someone like Zentaris, right? He, instead of going to these international lineups, probably rosters that will pay tons more money, he's comfortable enough to stay on a Turkish only team because he wants to play for national pride. But we don't have that kind of comfort. And even
Right.
like a lot of the upper teams don't have that kind of comfort. So yeah, I think mean, that's the biggest thing with orgs and pay and Siege.
I mean, I think it's tough having to choose between, your dream and goal of winning everything. Everybody who touches this game will tell you, winning SI is ultimately the goal. Working SI as a caster or a talent or an analyst or whatever is also that same high watermark here. And don't get me wrong, like winning a major must be pretty nice, right, Eric? But I think a lot of people forget that this is a job. At the end of the day, if you can't pay your bills, if you want to play this game professionally, the idea is that you don't need to work a part-time job. A lot of people in North America and other regions, particularly North America, has actually been immune to this for quite a while because salaries in NA were quite good. Yeah. But if you want to work in Siege, the goal is that you can do this full time. You want to scrim all day. You don't want to work another job. Talk about Cloud9 for a second here. When they had the APAC team, they were paying that Korean team so poorly that a lot of those guys were still working at literal fast food places to try and, be able to pay their bills. The idea is that everybody should be able to make enough money where their full focus can be on Siege and nothing else. And that equates to everything. That equates to every job, frankly, or that aligns with every job. But I suppose, Eric, now, given that you've made some decent money and you've also won a major, what is a higher priority for you? And with the players you've played with, what do you think is a higher priority for them? Do you think the goal is to make enough money to live off of, or is the goal to win a championship? And then maybe if you've made enough money, as Mike said about Zentaris and in CS, or if you talk about a player who's just immediately come in and won a championship, like as a rookie, what do you think is a higher priority here? Do you think it's making money? Do you think it's the chip?
It depends on people. Like I personally almost wanted to give up my salary so I can get a more competitive roster for Stage 2 of 2023, and then they didn't let me, and then we shit the bed. But I do think there's a minimum requirement. Like the way I think of it is there's a minimum requirement, right? Like I think there's just like Mike said, there's just enough to where you're happy and you're like, living a bit, and then maybe it doesn't even matter at that point. Maybe you're playing with your boys or you're playing with a successful squad. Doesn't even matter, right? Like I could tell you from Stage 2, 2023, Beast Coast was 2,500, and then we upgraded to 3,000, at least during the stage. 3,000 with no reduction in off season, right? And that's like $500 upgrade, and that upgraded me from a Mr. B reverse roster to hot and cold gunner Gavin. I think there's just a minimum requirement to get high quality players. That's really it. Once you pass that threshold, you're chilling, right? But I just think like if you pay a T2 salary, you're gonna get T2 players. That's really it. You're gonna have to like pick up from the up and comers. That being said, there's also people like Gavin who straight up told who have told his teammate to his face, I'm gonna take whoever pays me the most because he's Gavin and he doesn't give a fuck, right? So that's him. But at least I don't know. Depends. I think there's something to be said here. I think Jalen Brunson took a $100 million cut so he could have more talented players on the team. And I think there's something to be said about how much you wanted in that, somewhere in there.
I think a lot of things that get kind of lost in passion industries, and game devs will talk about this as well, is that it's still at the end of the day work. It's a fun job and it's a dream job. And don't get me wrong, like I've been able to do this, I've been able to work just as a caster, nothing else. Like obviously I stream and I do other content, and frankly, like, this podcast does pay too. But 90% of the money that I make comes from casting. I don't need to work other gigs because casting pays me a livable wage. But even if you look at what you just said, $3,000 a month, depending on where you live, $3,000 a month as a single person ain't going to cut it, especially if you're in a big city. $3,000 a month isn't even enough rent for a one-bedroom apartment plus food in Toronto. I could move to the burbs. You're in Chicago. I'm assuming it's a bit cheaper in Chicago, but not by much. So it's like, Mike, I don't know where you are, and I don't know if you've ever made that public, so you don't need to dox yourself here. But for a lot of people, like if you want to live on your own, $3,000 is just not enough money.
Yeah.
And it sucks that people have to make that decision. And if I'm looking at getting into Rainbow Six, if that's my only option, and there are teams getting paid less than $3,000, let's not kid ourselves here. assuming that you want to start, if you have two offers, one is enough for you to live off of and save, and the other is a slightly better team, but you're basically going to be in poverty wages, I think a lot of people are probably going to be taking the money over anything else. And it sucks that people have to make this decision, but like, I don't fault them for it. And unfortunately, teams like Team Secret, teams like Cloud9, they might struggle to compete until they fully open up that checkbook, right? So
yeah. And listen, I just want to say something real quick. I just want to say something. I feel
Say
like every time this conversation comes up, I feel like everyone just takes it as us like bashing the org owners. At least that's not what I'm saying. Like, listen, I understand. Like, every org owner response, like, you don't understand the logistics. You don't understand what it's like running a business, man. Esports is, yeah, bro, I know how negative esports is. It's not about that. If you don't put the money in, if you don't go triple negative and put the money in, don't expect to win. That's it. That's it. I'm not saying what you're doing is right or wrong. I'm just saying don't expect to win. Like, you pay what you expect in results. If you pay a losing salary, you're going to lose. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Like, we're not saying you're a piece of shit. Go negative $1 million in esports or else you're a terrible like org owner and you're doing everything wrong. No one's saying that. Do what you want. You own the org. Just don't expect to win. That's it. Don't expect to win. That's it. Like, you can't expect to win. That's it.
I think it's possible. I mean, we saw Black Dragons has historically been a team that has not had the same budget as, say, like FaZe, NiP, Furia, Liquid. I think that goes without saying. And yet they're still able to make it to events. Like, crazy things do happen. Like, hell, Project Zero made it. They weren't making any money at all. They were just a pug team, right? Like, that. Like, we've seen teams make it. CL.
I meant win an event.
Sorry?
I mean, like, win everything. Like,
I mean, okay, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It depends on what your calculus is here. But like, for a lot of these orgs, just simply making an event is the goal. Maybe not for the players, because I think it's fair to say the goal is always to win an event. But I think at least making the event is a pretty high water mark. Like, Mike, let's be completely honest here. For Fun made an event. You're looking at the other teams that are making it with salaries that are significantly higher than yours. You're going to hope to win, but I don't think that's a realistic expectation unless something goes crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for being honest. Like, on paper, you look at us, like, we're a CL team. Like, there's not an expectation. We're not paid the money that's expected to outright win and bring consistent results. Even if we do make a major, like, obviously there's still the belief in us that we, can upset and take those spots. But I think, like you said, like, when you're not paying winning money, you're not gonna get a winning team. But I'll say with that too is money's not gonna buy you a winning team necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you look at
Totally agree.
Falcons across every game, right? Now, all the Falcons rosters across every game have been pretty solid, but are they the sum of all their parts? Typically not. I mean,
I think that's. Are you a hockey fan, Mike? Or a baseball fan?
No, not really. I got no ball knowledge.
No, that's okay. I mean, because with hockey, a lot of people looked at the Rangers as being that team, and for a period of time, the Toronto Maple Leafs were in that same boat where it's like, prior to the salary cap, you had unlimited money. You could spend whatever you want. And baseball is kind of going through this now as well. There's no real defined salary cap in baseball. So you got a team like the Dodgers that can literally spend $1 billion on a roster. And then you look at teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, which are scraping together a roster with, less, like, about 1/10 of that. The Yankees always spend a shitload of money. The Boston Red Sox always spend a shitload of money. And I say this as a largely aggrieved Toronto Blue Jays fan who has to play in the same fucking division as them, where, you look at us and it's like, we've got the Baltimore Orioles, we've got the Tampa Bay Rays, we've got us. And it's like, then you got the Yankees and the Red Sox. And it's like, well, no duh that those two teams are historically the two best teams in the division. Their payroll is significantly higher. Recently, the Jays have been spending a ton more money. And guess what? The Jays and the Dodgers were the two most recent teams in the World Series. What do they have in common? The Jays' payroll was 7th in the league. The Dodgers' payroll was 1st in the league. And I mean, if you look at the Salt Lake City playoffs, FaZe Clan, huge org, tons of money, good salary. Team Falcons, tons of money. DarkZero, tons of money. Wildcard, they seem to be spending a decent amount of money on their team. Admittedly, I don't really know much about Wildcard's financials, but they seem to have a decent amount of money. Twisted Minds, a smaller org. Enterprise, a smaller org. G2, basically unlimited money. Shopify Rebellion, basically unlimited money. No shocker that 6 of these 8 teams that made it to Salt Lake City have very deep pockets. And they have much deeper pockets than a lot of these other teams that didn't go deeper than them. So there is a direct correlation to how much money you're willing to spend on this roster, on boot camps, on coaching staff, etc., and the success that you'll find. Now, do I think that is the single reason why Team Secret is doing poorly? No. Same with Cloud9. Like Cloud9's actually doing pretty okay, and we'll talk about that when we get to North America. But just because, as you pointed out, just because you spend money doesn't mean you're guaranteed success, but it's a pretty good indicator here of how these teams are going to do. And I mean, it's a pretty good indicator across the board. If you have the financial ability to focus on, what you're doing and spend money on, mental strategists and having dietitians. And like, I watched some of those early LCS videos where like Cloud9 had like a full like staff catering their league team. Like, of course those players are going to do well. But if you have to go out and, work a second job and cook your own food and take care of yourself and blah, 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 versus a team where you're making 10 grand a month and they have a literal cook for you, the team with the cook is probably going to just do better just based on everything else. It's not always a given, but it's a pretty good indicator of that.
100%.
I know that we've kind of dragged off topic a bunch. Mike, do you have anything else to add to that point?
No, I guess we talked about is money doesn't always buy success, but I think it's also important to remember that like we've seen Fett do. I mean, he got a roster, not necessarily the cheapest roster, right? But Fett didn't have the deepest pockets. Like he mentioned, the stage before that roster was very limited because of their pockets, right? Or their lack of funding. But with the right pieces, I mean, you can make huge upsets for sure.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. If you're still figuring out what to get your dad for Father's Day, because by the way, it's coming up, why not get them something nice from Raycon? How about Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic? I've been wearing them when I've been running errands. I might have lost my driver's license the other day, and maybe I had to go get a new one. And guess what I used on my transit ride to go get my driver's license? You'd guessed it. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic. They're great. The active noise cancellation blocks out the world, but you can still hear people around you if you really want to. And they're honestly quite affordable for the quality that you get. I use them. I'd encourage you to use them. And most importantly, if your father is somebody who likes to listen to things on the go, like music or maybe, I don't know, this particular podcast, why not? Now's a great time. And they're 15% off. So if you're looking for a Father's Day gift, Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic are a great thing to grab them. Upgrade your dad's everyday routine. Go to buyraycon.com/DBNO to get 15% off. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. When we look at Europe, sorry, I'm eating. If you don't have a visual component, I am fetting right now. I'm actually eating.
Oh, you want me? I'll take over. Anyways, rest of Europe, I mean, what is there to say? Virtus Pro still dogging on them. No one's figured out their playstyle yet, which is kind of like hilarious because I think like I look at them play and it's just NA. I mean, it's just SR. It's SR and EU, and they're honestly pretty good at it. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty good at that play style. G2,
what do you mean by that? Expand on that. What do you mean they are SR in EU?
Okay, they just telegraph there's like a very, very low chance they don't take the area that they are taking for the entire round, and they don't take the entire round to do so. And then SR actually has a lot more tricks up their sleeve. I'll talk about them more later when we get to NA, but SR has actually added a lot of speed to their playbook. They added a lot of misdirection to their playbook. They abuse their old habits of telegraphing to like trick people. I'm uploading a video today actually breaking that all the way down for casual viewers. For Mike, it's probably pretty default. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. Falcons for me, 2 disappointments for me when I watched them. Now I haven't watched Twisted Minds. Obviously, they're anticipated top 4. 2 disappointments for me are Team Falcons and Shifters, honestly. Team Falcons more so just like I feel like they have really great individual players and they're kind of just hinging on that fact. They're hinging on fundamental play every single round, and it's like they almost have little to no bag. It'll be every like 5 Falcons games I'll see like a cool strat. And it's like everything else is just like they pray to God that like Joom or EFAC or fucking Usus or Solotov just hits like a god play. And it's like they have the players for that. But then you look at G2, it's like essentially almost like that. But then they also have a lot of back to back it up. And it's just, for me, until Falcons can really deepen their strategical bag, I heavily doubt, like, regarding them in tournament winning form. I do think they are good enough to make main stage consistently still, but I don't know, man. I need to see more bag out of those guys. Shifters, I was just disappointed in their game against G2. I think I made a tweet about how they had a vert win con and they were playing above, and they're playing above. They retook above on piano site on consulate because they're trying to shoot the planter from above. And 4 players were dead spectating the Valk, like playing the game, like not. And then after they lose, like after the plant goes down, I see people get on a cam that says 1F Expo. It's like, bro, I understand if the cam doesn't see the person directly. Fucking hop on the win con. The thing with shifters is I feel like they're like 80% of the way there. The early rounds actually and mid rounds look pretty fantastic. It's just they stack win cons and they have no idea how to play them. That's like, oh, we're gonna play C4 underneath this round and then retake above. Okay, no one's on cams at the end. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? So that's really it for EU for me. I don't know if Mike has anything more to add, but everything else is as anticipated, in my opinion.
I think Fnatic's been a surprise, of course. I mean, we've mentioned that, but I think maybe for the first time in a while, I think there's a chance that we don't see Falcons at EWC through playoffs. I think EU's historically been very top heavy, and I mean they still kind of are. But I think with Fnatic actually, this Fnatic roster like showing up, if they continue to keep this form, especially through playoffs, which will be the real test, right? Because Falcons in best of threes in playoffs, when their backs against the wall, right? We know they can show up, right? But I think with this Fnatic roster and also Twisted Minds, I think there's a world if Falcons don't find their form that we could see them missing out of an event for sure.
These two teams are actually playing each other in the next play day. So Falcons and Fnatic kick off play day number 5, and I think that'll be a real eye opener. Is Fnatic the real deal? I was just pointing out, Fnatic's been beating up a lot of the teams at the bottom. They beat they beat GK or GK, who are they are not looking like a very good team at the moment. That's a bit of an island of misfit toys, if you want to call it that. They beat Team Heretics, and then they beat Shifters. Shifters are kind of on the outside looking in. I think Shifters could be a dark horse as time goes on, but right now I'm not seeing a lot from them that I love. They are adapting to a new system. Obviously they've brought Nafe onto that team. I think he provides some pretty good leadership for that squad. They got rid of P4, they brought on Nafe. I mean, I think that's an upgrade. I think all the criticism about Nafe is kind of overstated, if I'm being frank. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I've heard good things about him, like kind of behind the scenes. I think a lot of the narrative with Nafe comes from the outside view, the viewer's view. But I mean, I've heard good things about him as a teammate. So.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have talked to Troy a fair bit, and then obviously Nafe came on the show. He did our SLC Super Show with Paulu, and he basically said that he respects Troy, he still likes Troy, and that obviously regrets the way the situation went down. And then we had NJR come on the show and basically said that it was a lot of ways it was his decision to get rid of Troy. The mayor works in a mysterious way because Nafe ended up taking a lot of the heat for that because people saw him as being kind of the IGL in waiting, and then when Troy got moved off, people were like, oh well, Nafe must have been the culprit, the catalyst for this, and that it seems to be not the case. Fnatic and Falcons will be a fun game. GK versus Shifters is the very next game. But I think right now there's very clear top and bottom to this region. And if you see the way that these teams have played each other, that's starting to develop. I think right now, you put a lot of stock in G2 is really good. VP is really good. I think Falcons are still a good team. I think Twisted Minds are a good team. But I think there's a very clear bottom where that's kind of up in the air. Or sorry, that's not up in the air. The top is up in the air. Fnatic, I am watching with intense focus. VP destroyed them, but again, Fett was right. That's your first day. Your first day is never going to be a solid indication of what your team is capable of. G2 pushed to the brink by Geekay 8-6, and then they destroyed Heretics. They went to extra innings with shifters, and then but then trounced Falcons. G2 is just a weird team where there are some days where they just goof off and they're never serious. So hard to tell. I think your Falcons take is a hot one. You're saying that Falcons might not be a top 4 team. They might not make it to EWC. That's their home domain. I mean, granted, EWC is in Paris this year. It's not in Saudi Arabia, so the org doesn't really have the same ties to it. But a lot of Falcons are French, and they're playing in France. Yeah. So I mean, that would be a bit of a shocker here. You think Falcons gets the upset? What are your teams going from EU to or EML going to EWC if that's the case? Who do you think it is?
I think in the world where Falcons don't make it, it'd be Twisted Minds VP in G2, and then Fnatic, right? The big thing is like Fnatic, and I guess maybe I probably didn't take into consideration like how they've played the lower half, or against the what are seen as the worst teams. But I also think this is the best we've seen a Fnatic roster perform in a long time. Very long time. So I mean, something's clearly clicking there. I think that's good, and maybe with this momentum, they can make something work. But I think a lot of it relies on Falcons shitting the bed. For Falcons to not make it, right? Because of course they have the individuals who can just show up. But I'll also say so does Fnatic to a degree. I think Wizard's a very good young player. Citizen's always, I mean, he, I don't know if it's been broken, but he had a kill record for a while. Like, he's a shooter. Citizen's a very good individual player that is known. Deadshot, I think, can show up a lot. The other two, I don't know. I haven't seen Deepek perform, I guess, or play a lot of the top teams in big matches in a while, right? But I think, in his prime, he definitely was, and I don't know anything about Smiths.
I don't know anything about. I mean, I don't think many people know anything about Smiths. Period. Right? Yeah. He's a rookie. Right? Am I correct in that? He's a rookie on this team?
I don't think I've seen him before. I agree. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think Fnatic are in a great place to make playoffs. I think that's for sure for them at this point. But I think they also are in kind of like the envy position where they've beaten a bunch of like teams that you expect to be at the bottom, and they're kind of treading that middle ground of you can beat everyone in the lower half. Can you they still have to play against G2. They have to play against Falcons. If they play against Twisted Minds, I think those are going to be the big games I will be watching to see whether their form is good enough to make a great case for them in playoffs, because I feel like for teams like Wildcard in the past, before they got Lagones and they started like dominant, like doing really well at international events, that was kind of what they looked like, right? Like those teams that like almost made it, but then never quite got there in the middle of the stage. But personally, that's all I got for EU. If you want to move on to NA.
I mean, to the point about Deadshot, whose name is always fraught with peril when you see it. And I mean, Shifter's in the same boat. I actually saw somebody on the subreddit who's like, Interro's ruined the name for me. They went from BDS, where a lot of people, jokingly refer to them as BDSM, to Shifters, and a lot of people now call them Shitters. And it's very hard to see their tag and not think the same. Deadshot is the number 1 rated player in Europe right now. He's top ranked in EML. He's got 46 kills. It's not the most in the entire league. I actually think Benjamaster at 47 might be the most. It's hard for me to tell because the system that I use just largely keeps track of KD. It doesn't split them. But I mean, Deadshot's been looking pretty good. He's bounced back. And I mean, people remembered when Deadshot used to be able to take over games when he'd play on those French rosters. And it looks like Fnatic is finally kind of putting the pieces together, which, we were kind of wondering. But again, I don't want to get into that, envy position where it's like, oh, they did really well because they beat up a bunch of bad teams. Yeah. And now, that's why I said this Falcons match that's going to be on, I think it's Monday. That one is going to be a real test. It could come sooner than that. I think we kind of in a goofy schedule where not every team is playing. We've got some super weeks, especially in NA. But imagining that they play on Monday, that Falcons team is going to be a real challenge there. And honestly, if they beat Falcons, then I think we can start to say Fnatic is the real deal. And it also lends some credibility to your point that Falcons might not be as strong as we'd hope. I mean, Falcons showed some weaknesses at Salt Lake City. They picked up Joom. It doesn't look like he's a perfect slot in for Shaiko. Shaiko's obviously flourishing on that G2 team. Though he himself is having some offensive struggles so far. He has not looked like himself. He's been in the shadow of Benjamaster, and even Alamau's been really, really good for that G2 team, picking up a deceptive amount of kills on his role. But I mean, G2's got depth, and G2's always been a team where they don't need to dominate if they don't want to. They'll pick it up where needed. I look at the bottom teams in EML, and I'm like, yeah, they're probably where they should be. I think Secret can definitely improve. I don't know if it will happen in stage 1. I think the team is still just too green and needs too much work, and it might just take a little bit too long. I also think there's a high likelihood that Team Secret is just going to continue to blow up. Noah might look at it as a sinking ship and be like, get me out of here. And if that's the case, like if Noah steps off of that team, I mean, he's their secret weapon right now. Even with how shit Team Secret has been, Noah is still a top 10 rated player in EML right now.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got a frag on those teams. Not always. I mean, there's outliers. We'll talk about Outlast in a bit. But I mean, when you look at a guy like Noah, he might be the next one to be looking at either hopping to another team in EML or maybe even move over to North America and say, I'm looking for greener pastures. It wouldn't surprise me if he's the next person to depart. And then you got Mowgli and co, and the implosion of Team Secret just continues, right? As with these shows, we don't really do a lot of audience interaction when we bring on guests. And while he is technically not a guest and we are not doing the MikeW show today, he is just a regular co-host. We should do some calls to action here. So, I mean, if you're watching this and you made it to this point, I want to know not just about EML. I want to know your thoughts about NAL. I want to know about SAL. I want to know your thoughts just on, are things unfolding the way that you, the viewer, thought they would? What are the teams that you're cheering for? What are the teams that you wanted to do well who aren't? And what are the teams that you're very pleasantly surprised are doing well? Because at the end of the day, we read the comments, and I'm quite intrigued to know where's the landscape here. Let's move on from EML if we don't have anything more to talk about. The only parting thought that I have is, Twisted Minds. I think people are still sleeping on them. They made a deceptive run, making top 4 at Salt Lake City. That was obviously with a sub. Dovahkiin is not playing for the next little bit, right? They said that he wasn't going to be competing, so they're going to have a sub there playing for them or played for them, which obviously, it just sucks that Twisted Minds aren't able to field a competitive roster, and yet are still doing decently well. And as a Saudi Arabian team, EWC obviously must feel like home soil for them, and it might be a point of pride. Obviously Twisted Minds would love to be there as a Saudi Arabian organization and as a Saudi Arabian team. They're probably going to want to be at EWC, even if it's not in Saudi Arabia this time around. So that basically does it for EML. We'll move our sights over to North America, where Mike, you might know a thing or two about that. Which, by the way, if you, the viewer, are watching, MikeW's name's not really Mike. Gabriel, Gabe, just like Laxing, but we call you Mike just because it's easier. Producer David, let's pull up the NAL results, because the NAL is obviously had a bit of a super week. They're behind EML right now. Mike, I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience before we get into these results here. How is it playing under For Fun Esports? Let's talk a little bit about them, because I've never heard of them, and I want to know a little bit more. How did you end up getting picked up by them, and how's it been so far playing under an org?
I think it's been great so far. Yes, it's nice having pay now. I will say our situation's a little odd, where us actually getting the org was kind of last second. So we still have 2 players that are working who weren't working last stage, funny enough. Yeah, which seems odd, but a lot of that's because this is last second. And the plan is for that to not continue, right? But for now, it is. But I think it's nice. It takes a little bit off our shoulders. We have pay now. We can, if we need something players need a mouse or whatever, need upgrades. I think we definitely have players who could use upgrades, at least with systems. We can manage that a little bit more now. I think it's nice. I think they're just great. This is an org that I think has been looking to get into Siege for a little bit now. I know. I want to say when Envy picked up the roster, I think during that time they may have been looking to get a roster. I might be wrong about that. It might have been around SI. I
Okay.
believe what's now Five Fears was in talks with them. But no, it's been great. Yeah,
It's good.
new thing for me. First time being salaried, I guess, like so officially. I mean, I was on Envy
Not
for
your
like a
first time getting
tiny bit.
paid for Siege, right? Because you made money for the Sploit
Yeah,
Invitational.
yeah,
You still make
yeah.
prize pools for making. Yeah.
Yeah. But being salaried, something more consistent's nice.
Money is good. I don't think
Money
that's
is good.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's
Hot take.
controversial to say.
Yeah.
How has it been? How has it been actually being supported by an org? Does it make game days easier? Does it make prep easier? Does it make matches easier? Or is it basically the same so far?
I mean, I'd say it's basically the same because I mean, it's not like we're being picked up by a big org, and they've told us this. We've talked to them about this. Like, there's not this huge expectation on us to perform, to a Shopify level, right? Like, we're not getting Shopify funding. That's the reality. We know this. Everyone knows this. But what you call it? We. Oh my God. Again, I just forget the question. I just ramble and I try to like get wordy and then I forget the question.
I love it though. I think that's authentic. I do that all the time, brother. I get so lost in my own thoughts.
Yeah.
You have support from the org. They're there. There's somebody
yeah.
there. There's somebody there if things go bad.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing usually with orgs as far as, performance, you have two things I think is expectations, which are usually pretty like indirectly put on you, by the org or by yourself really a lot of the times. And then staff.
How much staff do you have on that team?
So we have a head coach and then we have an analyst. And this is kind of where the org thing has played a big part. We lost our analyst from last stage, who was fantastic, to SSG. And funny enough, we actually lost our head coach from before Challenger Series. We had SSG's head coach, Coma, their current head coach, Coma.
You just got poached.
And then he got poached by SSG. And then for kickoff, we had Royce and Piker, and now we lost Piker to SSG again. But we now have a new analyst. We have Bushi, who's worked with DZ in the past. But I think that's usually the main difference with like having org backing is being able to have that staff. Now again, with things being last second, I think that was part of why we lost Piker.
Last second being getting picked up by the org?
Yeah. Like it was a safer option for him to go somewhere and get signed when we were kind of in a position we weren't sure if everything was gonna be finalized before the stage. So this is a safer option for him.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense. But having the org now still does open more doors, or open doors that otherwise wouldn't be open for picking up analysts who, I mean, oftentimes is an unpaid job, which is, I mean, a whole other conversation of its own.
I was gonna say
But,
Cloud9 got flayed for that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They announced that they wanted
As
an
they
analyst.
should. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, Vivid took the shit for it.
I
But,
think Vivid trolled, and here's where I think Vivid trolled. I think Vivid trolled on 3 different occasions, bro. I have a take on this, bro. Vivid comes out and he's like, "Yo, man, we need someone to do data entry for free." That's essentially what he's saying, okay? And listen, that's not uncommon. It's bad. It's bad. Like Beast Coast, when I was on that team, they refused it. They were like, "No, we cannot have that. We have to pay them." And I'm like, "Okay, do you have a budget for it?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, what the fuck, man? Either way, right? If you want stats, it's very hard for the coach to do it by himself if the coach is doing a lot of other things. This is like my slight defense of it because it is a common thing to happen. Now, should it be criticized? Absolutely. I think everyone should get paid for their hard work and time. Absolutely. It should not be a thing. That being said, I think Vivid trolled in his responses because then he could have just been like, I didn't get a budget for it, right? Or didn't give me a budget. It sucks. It is what it is. Then he comes out and he's like, nah, actually, I'm going to give them a prize pool split. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna give him a prize pool split, man. It'll be great. And it's like, all right. And then I think it was Fresh or someone else calculated what like a first place finish in North America would get them, and it will literally be less than like minimum wage for their work.
Yeah.
And then at that point, Vivid again could have been like, yes, I know it's a bad situation, but like this is the budget I was given, and they didn't include an analyst for it. And then he triples down and he's like, and he starts arguing why the work of a data entry analyst is like lower tier. And at that point, it's like, okay, you dug yourself your own grave. You had like 3 different opportunities to be like, I'm sorry, it's bad, but I don't have a budget for it. Because typically that is what happened. But then I think C9 did revise their budget. I think that's how they're able to get Pamba, and I think that's how they're able to actually hire an additional staffer as well. So I think he just didn't communicate with his org. But I think he just trolled. I think he just trolled PR wise right there.
Or do you think that they saw the immense amount of public pushback and scrutiny and decided to suddenly free up money for a budget because the alternative was getting quite a black eye?
Yeah, which would be great. Did they make partner program, by the way?
Yeah. They've been partners since the jump.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say C9's been in the partner program for.
Yeah,
they obviously left.
They were in Reload.
Or sorry, they left. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, maybe
Isn't there also, hold on a second here, but wasn't there also a rumor
sacrifice.
going around for a while that Cloud9 wanted to give really terrible salary and they were just going to give a portion of the R6 share? I heard this from too many people for this to not be true. I heard from a no shortage of people, and obviously this is hearsay, so take it with a grain of salt. But I heard from a lot of people that Cloud9 was looking to either lower the amount that they pay their players or ultimately not pay them very much at all, and we're going to give them a cut of the R6 share money only when it hit a certain threshold. And people kind of balked at that because, again, it's like, oh, you get a cut of the prize earnings. Oh, you get a cut of the R6 share stuff. It's like, just pay me money. Just pay me a salary.
Yeah. The issue is the time. The time is just not there for it to like actually support a human being. Like, great. If you get $70,000 in fucking skin money, okay, no one gets that. If you get like $7,000 in skin money, that's great. But it's like it comes literally 2 years later. Like it comes like literally a millennia later. Like you're not getting that. You're not seeing that. Prize pool, same thing. You're not seeing that until like the dawn of time. Like,
oh, we're gonna pay you in crypto. Oh, we're gonna pay you in this. Which please just pay me in normal money. Maybe in normal human money. Like,
yeah, I can confirm. I was in talk. Not much conversation, but just very briefly, surface level, in talk with C9, and that is very accurate to what is going on, or at least what they're offering.
Dream said when he left, he was like, they were going to reduce my salary by 1/5. So take whatever money you think he was getting paid, and then divide it by 5, and that's your guess without leaking, right? Like,
they dropped. They already came in with like kind of low salaries from what you would expect from C9 whenever they came in during Reload, but there was another big drop off, and yeah, that's my problem with orgs, and that is part of why we were orgless for Stage 1 is we weren't gonna join an org, or sorry, for kickoff, we weren't gonna join an org that is directly profiting purely off of the R6 share program alone. Because the affiliate teams, they get a lot less than the partner teams, but they still get a significant amount. We weren't going to sit there and get paid less than what they would get purely from the share program, because it's like you're
basically being taken advantage of. They're using you and your team's popularity to sell skins and then not properly investing in you.
Yeah. And then there's also like, I think a fair expectation. The org that should not be their primary way of profiting. If like I understand one, like you don't want to pay a lot more than that because profiting in Siege can be difficult. I get it. And esports in general can be difficult. But I think there's orgs like quite frankly like C9 that are in the game currently purely to profit off of that share program at minimum.
There are a lot of orgs that really do, strike me as like, again, tourists, people who are not here to actually invest anything. They're just here to see the sites and make money and then leave, right? And it's, again, like, look, I'm not gonna look down my nose at ways for teams to make money. Like you said, esports is a tough gig, right? It's an industry that is ripe with bad financial decisions and poor investments, but it's also, ultimately it's a place where teams can make money if they do things wisely and are smart about promoting their teams and promoting their skins and stuff. And I've heard from some of these orgs the amount of money they make on skins, and it's down. It's definitely down from where it was 5-6 years ago. I get that. There's a couple of reasons for that, I'm sure. A big one is that there's just so many skins in the game. Like, I used to buy almost every single R6 share skin when it first came out the first couple of years because I was like, oh, these are great. And then it got to a point where it's like, do I need my 8th L85 team skin? Do I need an anime woman skin? Yes. Like, I get it. I get that there was a period of time where I think there was 1 or 2 teams that did like anime, like Cat Girl or just anime.
But Elevate? Or...
Yeah, I think it was Elevate was like the first one, and people were like, holy shit. And then apparently their sales were insane. I don't know what they were, and I don't know how much it was.
It was like in the millions and then $500,000. That's the first 2.
Yeah, like it was somebody was like, what if we just do like an anime woman skin? And then it was like just printed money. And then every org was like, well, what if we do that? And it's like, the reason why it made $1 million is because they were the only one. Yeah. If there's 40 of them, you guys aren't all going to make $1 million. Like, and I get that. They're like, even if we make a little bit, we have to do an anime skin because if we don't, it's not going to sell. And it's like, I hate anime so much. I am going to actively avoid buying anime skins. I'm aware I'm in the minority. I know that. And I'm not expecting teams to make skins catered to what I want. But I know enough people who are like, literally every skin except for 1 or 2 is anime. I don't want to support this. And then it's also like, again, it's like, do I need another R4C skin? Do I need another L85 skin? Do I need, my 12th SMG11 skin? Like, no, I don't. And unfortunately, that's the way it gets. And that's why I think like the operator uniform kits are really cool. The downside to that is that you never get to see the kit. Like, speaking of Team Secret, I think Team Secret is a really, really cool set of skins. I think TSM has some great skins. I don't physically get to see them. They're on my character, right? They're on my operator. My opponents see them. I don't see them. I see the gun skin. But how many, again, I pick one MPX skin, I pick one L85 skin, and I'm like, I'm good. So it's like, I don't know. And there are some really cool skins. There are some really bad skins. And there are some skins that appeal to people who aren't me. You have to try to make money off of them. I don't fault teams for wanting to try to do that. But where I do fault them is when they're like, we don't care about the team. We're not going to support you. We're not going to pay you very well, but we're going to try to make as much money off of our skins as possible. And I'm like, get out. Like, please just care about our esport. That's all I ask of you to do. Make content with your team. Cloud9 released a podcast today with their team. I think that I haven't watched it yet because I've been busy all day, but I do anticipate sitting down and watching it because I want to know more about that team. That team to me is quite an enigma. I want to know more about these players. I particularly want to hear more from Pambazoo. Like, he's taken some shit for DZ and 100 Thieves. I want to hear about him. And he talked his shit when they won most recently in the NA League I think it's when they beat 100 Thieves. So, like, I want to hear this stuff. I want you to make content about your teams. And yeah, maybe Cloud9's not the org that they used to be. But like, to me, Cloud9 is one of the esports orgs I think of when I think of esports. Please,
100%.
like, build that legacy more. Live up to that legacy. Yeah. And they find themselves in 5th place. I'm going to take a short break here just to talk about the results, just for people that are watching. For those that didn't watch on Playday number 1, I mean, I don't want to say that there were any real surprises that day. I think a lot of the matches went the way that we thought on paper. Mike, you had a great time going up against the defending champs in the very first match of the day. How the hell was that?
For me, that was not great. That was a big shitting pants moment. I mean, I tweeted about it after the second game. I'm like, much better job today, not shitting pants. There were a lot of questionable decisions out of me, and I think part of that too has to do with my own flaws as a player in person, which is letting my performance stage 1 go to my head. Letting my ego get in the way, and I was sitting there just try to be the hero, try to be the hero, try to be the hero, right?
You were very good stats wise in kickoff.
Yeah.
You did very well in kickoff.
And I think I kind of get in this cycle a lot of the times where I perform well, it gets to my head, shit the bed. And it's because when I perform well because I'm not trying to be the hero. I'm just
you're focusing on an objective, and then now you're focused on like single-handedly turning the tide of a round.
Like I'm good at doing what needs to be done, and doing my part, and I'm more consistent with that. And I think again, like I said, get in this cycle where it's do good, shit the bed, realize I need to stop letting it go to my head, and yada yada yada. And I think that first play day was especially disappointing for me because we still did bring it so close. And me who I mean, I've had my own incidents or whatever in practice since the stage or whatever. I was our most consistent performing player in kickoff, and was a player that showed up, and people have looked at me to continue to show up, and then I shit the bed, and it was still that close, and it's just that's why it's so disappointing, because it's the person that is expected to perform didn't, and if he did, it could have been a win, right?
Admittedly, the whole team didn't do that great. It wasn't just you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like if you're like the guy that's supposed to be getting kills, you didn't have a great day. But like nobody on the team really had a great day. Silo had one of Silo's best performances against really tough competition. But the rest of the team struggled.
And I mean, I'll say too, I think part of that too, though, is if I'm doing what I'm doing, where I'm sitting there trying to be a hero, it puts everyone else in a shit spot, because then not only they're playing a lot of me trying to be the hero is like early round usually, and so then they're having like players that are not usually the ones that are having to play the late round, or the ones having to play the late round, because I'm sitting here trying to do whatever the fuck, and they're in these scenarios that they're never in because I'm not sitting here trying to be the fucking hero in scrims. And so I think that makes that difficult on them. And Silo's still doing good despite that. I think that was big. Like Silo, that map was, we played that game on Cafe, and he plays a difficult spot in Tier 1 Siege, which is C1, the cocktail bar. And he showed up, and so I felt like I really let the team down on that one. I don't think DZ played to a form where that they were, they would be satisfied with. I will say that. Like, they did feel very sloppy from them, and I think they would agree with that.
Which again is crazy. I'm not trying to beat you while you're down or anything like that. But I mean, if you just look at the player stats for that matchup, like the player stats suggest it should have been an absolute slap fest.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a 7-5. So it's like you won a lot of rounds where you guys probably shouldn't have, just based on the overlying numbers. But I mean, again, sometimes you have those games where it's like, things just break your way, right?
Yeah. Like we won a lot of those, like, rounds where it's like 1 in 100, right? And we didn't convert the ones we should have had, or I didn't allow us to get in a position where we could, have a fundamentally sound round where, we're in a good position because we're playing well. Yeah, I think that was definitely my biggest takeaway from that first play day. It was just letting go of the ego a little bit.
So the
W Mike.
W Mike, well, or Mike W. Yeah, we can flip it around here. You're still new, right? Like you just played kickoff, and we this was something that we circled back on the podcast a bunch. But as casters, we also talked about it too. Kickoff was quite short, And if you were on one of those bottom tier teams, like you played 4 best of ones, and that was it, right? So for some of these squads like 100 Thieves and Outlast, you don't really get those reps. You play 4 single maps, and then you sit and wait for 2 months until you get back in action. And, you know, the metal have changed and some teams made roster moves. And, you know, for you guys, you stuck with it. You know, and I think that's the right call to make. I know people were critical about Outlast as well. And I think, honestly, some of the criticism for Outlast is very well deserved. But it's like you've got 5 pretty young guys in terms of experience. You got 5 players with no real comp experience. And they're all just trying to make it work together. And they sink or they swim. That's really it. And if they sink, they sink. That's it. But at least they were loyal to each other and they tried. And, you know, right out the gate, you guys were firing during kickoff. You were real close to being one of the teams to make it to Salt Lake City. So, you know, you had that pretty terrible circumstances in kickoff, you know? So
yeah,
it's a learning experience. And I think you being hard on yourself is commendable. I think as a human being, don't be too hard on yourself. But if you assess that there's a weakness in your game by being too egotistical in the way you play or the way you hold yourself, knock that shit off and become a better player. And it sounds like if that's the issue, it seems like you've got your mind and eyes set on that. So that's good.
No, I think I will say, like, I appreciate, you know, with what you say, you know, is close and all that, and you know, a lot of us have gotten that. But like I'm someone who's such a big believer in like the experience thing. It's like it's so overrated. Like it's so bullshit.
Why is
It's
it
like,
bullshit?
because I mean, for me personally, it's like if I learn how to deal with nervousness, right, which I did in T2, I learned how to deal with that. It doesn't change in T1 for me. I know how to work through that problem, like still. And there's you know there's other nuances, you know, with you know T1 being just a different level and stuff like that. The competitor in me says that like experience is bullshit, but I think part of that too is I love being an underdog, and part of what's given us that underdogness is being new and experienced. I had like a year of being at like the top of T2, um, and playing with people who were successful T1 players. And I haven't, you know, teamed with Packer until recently, but I've been friends with Packer for a while. Like I have the insights into Tier 1. I have a lot of the knowledge. Um, but I do still appreciate, because like you mentioned on the cast a lot, like when especially talking about our team and you know Outlast, is we have the newer players, and I think that's really good. I mean, for the you know for a viewer perspective, or like giving us that grace to the viewers, kind of. But the competitor in me is the one that kind of says like experience is kind of bullshit, right?
Let's ask a major winning coach. Do you think experience is bullshit?
Sadly, no, but I do think what his mindset is necessary to winning. I do think that when I look at the 1 of 30 roster compared to the Outlast roster, it's like a team that I can see going against a Titan and taking them down, if not taking a few maps off them, right? Like I'm very impressed with your roster, Mike. I think the way you guys handle yourselves mentally, the way you guys come back from tough rounds and continue to play the games is actually really impressive for a roster's first year. And I think that just goes to show like how you guys have trained your mindset. That being said, I think all the things you talked about does come with experience. I think especially like late rounds is an experience thing. Sadly speaking, it's just like knowing how to close out rounds. A lot of teams, like I think a lot of teams have really strong openers. I think late round, like end games, are where like the teams like G2, even they'll have a terrible opening round, they'll like lose like 3 picks to some bottom feeder team in EML, and then they'll just somehow bring it back because they're so good at like closing out on win cons or abusing the fact that the enemy team is not playing win cons. The only reason I say that is because when I was building that Beast Coast roster that won the major, one of my hard rules was no more than 1 rookie, and everyone else has to have main stage experience before. So I'm like listen, don't listen to me. Point being, don't listen to me. Like my sad answer is yes, just because I have to be honest. But I think your mindset is healthy, and I think like how you take like improvement wise, I think that will come to you. I think what you said is very like I think I observed that in you when you went flawless in Swiss for T2 with Mr. B, and then you had a disappointing playoffs run, right? Like I expected you guys to win that whole league. And you guys kind of had a disappointing playoff run after that. And I think like that kind of showed there. And that I think if that showed again and you're identifying it, that's great. First step is identifying, right? Like I think a big problem is people don't identify it. The fact that you're identifying, the fact that you're setting goals for yourself, I think that's great. And I think it comes. I respect it.
Yeah.
Do you want to respond to Fett before I jump in?
Yeah. I mean, everything he says is valid. I think part of what I'm saying, or what I truly mean with saying experience is bullshit, I think part of it is me just being like, it might be a little disingenuous because I do have experience, and I think I do see with my teammates like Silo and Volsper, like the lack of experience. But I have a lot more experience than is kind of like you see on the surface, because I plateaued hard in T2 for a while. And then once I had gotten to a point in T2 where I was, considered a top player in T2, I then spent like another year there. And I mean, in that whole time too, I was fortunate enough to have a handful of games against T1 teams too, through Element 3 and SI quals and things like that. So that, I think that's where I kind of get that idea from. But I do definitely have experience. It's just not on kind of like the surface. So like, I don't think experience is a great excuse for me personally, or I don't give myself that grace, I think is
yeah, I see what you mean.
I would say it.
I think being comfortable and the phrase "act like you've been there," I think is really important, especially at a top level. Now, obviously, I don't come at this from any kind of organized sports. I mean, look at me. That should be pretty obvious for most people. But I obviously, like, I've been thrust into positions with very limited experience. A good example is casting. Like I obviously casted a lot of the first season of CCS, but that was to max like a couple hundred viewers. And suddenly I get thrust onto the main broadcast with, thousands of people watching. And I was nervous. I was very nervous. I was nervous at my first live event. I still get nerves every now and then when we get up on stage, but I think experience obviously helps you understand what's coming and prepare for it. Now, I imagine that when you're playing at a T2 level, playing up against teams, you have the experience of knowing what it's like to go into a competition and knowing what pressure is like and knowing what playing from behind is like and all that jazz. But those teams you're playing against are objectively worse than the teams you're going to play up against in T1. So you might have the experience and you might know what that's like, but you don't necessarily know the exact scenario you're going to find yourself in. And the only way to do that is to continue to play and afterwards just do a debrief. I debrief my casting. I know lots of people, when they play sports, will go back and watch their VODs and look up ways that they could improve. And I know that pro players here do the same, right? I understand the mindset of a pro, the drive to always want to be the best, because as relaxed as I might seem, I also have the drive. Like, I'm competitive. I want to be the best caster there is. Like, Jesse and I routinely talk about what we did well and what we can improve upon. We watch other casters in other esports, in our own esport, in traditional sports, and we go, hey, that's really good. We should do that. Or, oh, that kind of sounds like something we do. We don't like that. We shouldn't do that. The only real way for you to improve is to practice. And with experience comes knowledge, and then you can use that in practice to improve. So obviously, you've played up against good T2 teams. You've played on LAN before, admittedly, at the Shopify head offices, but still on LAN. You've played in front of thousands of people on stream. But you're still climbing. You're still young. You're still finding your footing. You're still playing up against tough teams. You're still finding yourself, battling your own mental. You had a great kickoff. Statistically, you're not really having a good stage one so far. Mm-hmm. But you acknowledge that, and you're humble and you're hungry. And I think those attributes they're not alone going to make you the best, but having those attributes, I think, puts you in a better spot, I should say, than a lot of other people. And it forces you to confront, because of your I'm trying to figure out a nice way to say this. Now it's me, the one that's having the trouble getting lost in my own thoughts. I think being humble and being hungry already puts you in a position where you have succeeded in two ways, both the humbleness and the hunger, that a lot of people are not able to get. A lot of people are not humble. And a lot of people say they're hungry, but they don't know how to be hungry properly. A lot of people want to be the best. People have that hunger, but don't know how to actually put it into practice, right? So the fact that you're conscious of the fact that you have those two attributes, I think already sets you up really well. And if you can build on the rest of it and keep your ego in check and see ways in which you can improve, and because you're humble, you're going to listen to other people, you're going to listen to your coaches, you're going to listen to other players, that is going to train your hunger in areas where you can actually eat up the things you need to eat to grow. So, you had a rough start to stage one so far. You're 3 games in.
Yeah.
You've acknowledged that. You can build on that. And I think that's going to set you up really well for the remainder of stage one. And if you can't do it stage one, you strike me as the kind of guy who spend the off season heading into stage 2 to set your sights on improvement there. And that's great. And we will give you that grace. And just as we do on the broadcast, it's not that we make excuses, but we try to contextualize why things happen, whether it's Troy dropping a goose egg or whether it's a team like Outlast not really understanding tier 1. There's reasons for that. And we just try to put that into words for the viewers so that they can kind of understand it instead of just making jokes about it or punching down on people who are having a bad day. That's all.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, definitely. I mean, I think that is something, those two qualities you bring up, hunger and humbleness.
Being humble.
And humility and being humble are definitely things. Those are lessons I already like you mentioned. I mean, those are things I had to learn too. Definitely the hunger part. That was a big thing for me, I think. Yeah. Shout out Bay 94. Shout out the weapon.
Shout out the weapon.
He helped me get through that one. So
I like Bay. What a nice kid.
he's great.
A nice kid. I said that you were just a guest host, but then we just ended up interviewing you there for like 30, 40 minutes. But it was nice. It was good. It's nice for you to be able to share your perspective. You had Packer to joke around with last time you were on the show. Now it's just you. Now it's just the MikeW show. You had a rough game against SSG. You had a rough game against M80. Does the schedule get easier for you moving forward? Have you guys assessed the problems? Do you think there will be improvement laying in your future as you look to climb out of 8th in NAL?
I mean, definitely. I think it's still early on to look at the standings. And we definitely had to take them with a grain of salt because there are still 6 play days left. There's never a doubt with this team about, improving and fixing issues, right? It's just, when one arises, we take care of that, and, another one pops up, right? It's just plain whack-a-mole with the issues, right? But I think with our schedule, I think we can definitely continue and finish out the stage strong. We have some of the, more objectively weaker opponents. Well, I guess. I mean, we already played
Thieves
DZ.
coming up. You got Outlast next. You got 100 Thieves. You got 5 Fears. You find themselves in sixth place. They're your final opponent for the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, you got DarkZero and M80 out of the way. That's 2 top 3 teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's 2 teams. In my opinion, I think we struggle against the most, and I don't think that was a surprise to us. But I mean, going forward, our mindset has to be, every game gives us the same amount of points, right? Like, DZ's not going to give us 6 points and Outlast give us 2, right? So we got to stay focused and just keep our eye on the prize, right? And the ultimate, or not the ultimate goal, but our next goal of making playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So
NA looks competitive. Cloud9's been a bit of a surprise. Again, really early in the season, Cloud9 in 5th place with a single win. So the top is eating up at the moment in the North America League, and we can bring up the group stage results for you right now, just as we look at what the layout of NA looks like. Outlast has only been able to win 7 rounds so far across their 3 matchups. We said that their usual is getting 2 to 3 rounds per game. Obviously, they broke that in their matchup against SSG, which I'm going to be completely honest here. There are times where you look at a scoreline that's 8-6 and you go, wow, that must have been a good game. I look at that SSG 8-6 scoreline, and I mean, obviously, I watched the matchup on Clubhouse. It was an ugly one. It was a pretty ugly game. I think what's immediately evident is that both of these teams need some serious work. You know, I feel for the Outlast guys. We had them on the show. Obviously, Mike, that was the episode you were on. And they're nice guys. It seems like right now there's something missing, and maybe more than one thing on that roster. I am a little surprised they didn't make a roster move in the offseason, if I'm being completely frank. You know, I would have almost certainly made 1 or 2 changes on that team, but they stuck with it. And again, I admire the loyalty 100%. Unfortunately, right now, they're kind of speedrunning relegations unless something really, really changes, as I don't really think we've seen a ton of growth on that squad from kickoff to now. But or maybe we have, and just everybody else has experienced a lot of growth and have ultimately improved more. I think a lot of teams have made a positive step forward. It's just, if one team improves by 1 point and you're in the bottom, you got to beat that, or else you're going to stay in that same spot. So your matchup against them tomorrow, actually, which I will be casting, which if you're watching this was yesterday, technically, because this will be Friday. Your matchup against them is going to be an intriguing one, and I imagine you guys are already well prepped for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, the biggest thing, in my opinion, someone who I focus so heavily on just, you know, the competitive approach mindset to games is we have to, you know, we can't start out slow, right? We can't do what SSG did where, you know, they go down 1-5. We can't, because it's Outlast, you know, we just fuck around. We, you know, we can just individually skill diff them, and it's like, we know we can't do that. So, you know, I think I'm confident going into that game. I think we know to always remember what made us good in the first place in tier 2, right? And in general, you know, how we, you know, we think of ourselves as a good team, right? Despite maybe, you know, with the results or, you know, people outside might think, but, you know, we know what makes us that way, and so we know it's important to keep those things up, right? The discipline, things like that. Yeah, I think it'll be easy. Or, well, I shouldn't say that.
You can say the thing is that people will watch this, and the game will be over when people are watching this. So if you guys get the shit slapped out of you, they're gonna be loving it.
Oh yeah, it'd be hilarious. No, it'd be really fun. We always joke about that. We're like, I mean, good scrim today, guys. You know, it's all good. We are just gonna get 7-0 by Outlast, though. We are gonna give them the most points they've gotten so far. So, I mean, good scrim though, guys. I mean, we tried our best.
Eric.
Yes.
Of all the NAL games, what were the most memorable for you so far? And frankly, what are your expectations? And I mean, do you want to talk about your console friends or what?
I like the 2 starting 100 Thieves games. I think 100 Thieves versus M80 was a great one. I don't know. Yeah, you want me to just run down the whole league? I'll run down the whole league right now.
You don't need to run down the look. When we were talking about refining the show and streamlining it, one thing we agreed upon was not talking about every single thing. And you don't need to talk about every single thing.
That's just how I
talk about the things you liked.
That's my default, though. Okay. I mean, well, I just have a lot of things to say. Like, I think.
Say them then. You say whatever you want, man. It's also your show.
Okay. Kaysen good. Kaysen good. I think one of the reasons I say Kaysen good is because I see that in moments of adversity and in tough positions, he is willing to make plays that seem necessary to win the rounds. I think like 80% of like hyped up rookies just shut down in those moments. So that's already one filter gone. I think a second thing is when the match is going to shit, when you're getting rehosted 17,000 times, when you're losing man advantages, he's still bringing the energy. That's another thing. I did not get to see the Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves game, which ended up getting they got stomped by it. But I think it's a BO1. I'll give them the grace of the doubt. I'm rooting for them. I love the players on that team. I'm very concerned about their late round. I think their late round refrag and coordination is their weakness. And in the late rounds, they don't seem to hit 3-2-1s just at all. And it pisses me off. And I think they could get a lot more rounds if they have it. M80 look nuts. M80 looks like Savage fits like a glove. And I mean, rightfully so. He's literally probably the only IGL you could have replaced someone like 2-time major winning Hot and Cold with. And it looked that good, right? Like he's EWC champ, second place SI. And he's there for a reason. He has an aggressive style of IGLing. He encourages his players to take the risks. And with players as aggressive and as skilled as the players on M80, it's nice to see that they look like such a solid fundamental team. And I really love what they said mentality-wise about, hey, it's okay to take a risk. If you lose on that risk, so be it. Take every single risk you want. I love to hear that because I think a lot of players are you see the way they play and they seem to play scared or overthinking once they get into a position of advantage or just in general. And I think it's great that they're taking risks. I mean, yeah, Cloud9 look a little promising with Pamba at the helm. SSG is the main thing I want to talk about. SSG, that's the one. That's the main topic. Because I remember I made a video basically covering all the roster changes in NA. And I was like, here's who I think the top 6 are. And I think NA is exciting because you obviously have your major grand finalist, DZSR, at the top. But then on top of that, you have Wildcard M80, who are part of that big 4, right, that you anticipate. And then on top of that, you have a 100 Thieves roster that just rebuilt. And then on top of that, you have 5 tiers who just got first place last stage, right? And I remember someone in the comments was like, man, Fett always downplays SSG, man. Like they were so close last stage to making the major. I can't wait till they prove him wrong. And look, my thing with that is that I love all the guys on SSG, and I would love nothing more for them to prove me wrong. Honest to God. But at the end of the day, the result they had this first week is extremely concerning. And the reason it's extremely concerning, no disrespect to MikeW, but it's against teams that you would typically think to get a win against, like to gain points in the standings, because these are the 2 teams that ascended from tier 2. The 2 teams that ascended from tier 2, if you are a story team like SSG or an experienced team like SSG, are teams you anticipate to gain points and leadership rankings off of. Now they have to get top 6 by beating Wildcard, by beating DarkZero, by beating Shopify Rebellion, and by beating 100 Thieves. Right, like that is now their path to get top 6, and it's really good for them that they got the win against Outlast. But prior to that game, that 7 rounds that they've won, Parker, or the Outlast have won, 6 of those are from SSG. Like prior to that game,
single game, yeah.
Yeah, prior to that game, their round was like they got 14-1 so far in the league, and they went overtime with them. I'm concerned for SSG. I think they really need to figure something out. But I'm also not surprised. And the reason I'm not surprised and the reason why I didn't count them into my top 6 in that video I made is because if you look at kickoff, their only notable win was Wildcard. They got slammed by DZ. They won against Wildcard in groups. And then they lost to everyone else in playoffs. Right? And then they beat Cloud. I guess they beat Cloud9 again, but that was Cloud9 pre-Pambazoo. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, Pambazoo, pre-Pambazoo, post-Pambazoo, Cloud9 is a big difference just because you remember the last time that Cloud9 X/LG roster made anything was when they had a S tier pro on their team, when they had Surf. So I do think it's a big difference. Yeah, that's really it. Troy segment?
I've been waiting for it. Before we get to the Troy segment, the question that was asked on the subreddit. Did ranked 3.0 break Aiden?
No. Stupid comment. Like, dude, ranked is great. I think ranked can build bad habits for you. I don't think grinding the game more is going to hurt you. Now, maybe if you grind the game in a terrible way, it can hurt you. But like, dude, we were all praising BDS when they won Yanshiping and they were champs 1 through 5. and we were like, wow, pros really should play the game more. And then we were shitting on the pros that like never played the game, you know? Like I think I think it's fine. I don't think it's any I don't think it's any above. I think he had a bad week. You know? I still think he's a good player. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think their performance from kickoff would indicate, for me at least, based on the teams that they actually beat in kickoff. I don't think it indicates to me that they are a international contender, I'll say.
Michael Dubs, do you agree?
I think definitely. I think kickoff, they got a lot of hype. One, because they have the console players. But two, sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now. Also, who they played in group stage. So they went 3-1 in group stage, if I remember correctly. Oh, okay, and I went too far back. That's lovely. But other than that, other than their group stage, where I think they may have gotten an upset win or two. Okay, here it is. So yeah, they went 3-1, only losing to DZ. So they beat Wildcard in the kickoff. And so that was, like the big upset. They beat C9 and Outlast, which isn't, we know now is not crazy. So they had hype from that, from going 3-1. But then they lost to us, beat C9, and then had a close game with DZ. Which is like, yeah, that's DZ, right? Like we now know, the world champs, they won the major. But something I'd love to preach, and I get called for old for it all the time, is close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right?
I
Like,
say that shit all the time. My parents say that. You're like spiritually 80 years old if you say that.
and I just love like little phrases like that. Like I
Love your
live by that
idioms.
shit.
You love
Yeah,
your little idioms. You love them.
yeah. But I think that's a big thing, and I think I remind the team that a lot. I remember I was like the first person to say it out loud for our team. Is I'm like, guys, like I know everyone's been telling you guys that we had a good kickoff, and like this has been a solid season, but we went 2-6, guys. We got 2 wins, and they're all like, "Holy shit! Wait, actually?" Because none of them realize. And we keep hearing like, "Oh, nice!" Like, "Oh man, that was close." Like, no, like we went 2-6, and not only that, like we went close. People talk about it because we went close with the team that goes infamously goes to overtime every game, a Troy team. We had 2 close games with them, infamous for going close. Like if we didn't bring back Layer, the second time we played them would have been a fucking. They would have walked us, right? Because they had like a 5-1 lead or something like that, right? So I try to remind them that, and I think to tie it back to like SSG is. I think it's a similar story for them. It's like everyone's like, yeah, like man, you guys played them close, like yada yada yada, and it's like, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Like we can't keep this, like we can't keep putting the expectations on them. Is what have they truly done? What upsets have they truly made or had? Yeah. That's my
Yeah.
opinion on SSG. And I don't think ranked for as far as ranked ruining Aiden. I don't think rank's inherently bad, especially for Aiden. I think Aiden's smarter than that. I think the important thing with ranked is like acknowledging like Fett said, building the bad habits. As long as like Fett talked about earlier, you identify the problem, then you can work through that. And I mean that same narrative goes on in CS. Whether it's like oh, man, these players need to stop playing pugs, so they're shit in the bed because they keep playing pugs and building these bad
Donk
habits.
plays like fucking 3,000 games of Face It every month.
Donk
bro.
plays more Face It games than he has 36 hours in his day somehow. I don't know. But I think that goes to show like he's like the most dominant player there, and then you have like this Falcons coach in CS who's like, oh, don't play pugs. You're building bad habits. It's the important thing at the end of the day when playing pickup games or ranked or whatever is you just that you can build bad habits, be mindful of that. And what I even do is I intentionally go against the bad habits. Like in ranked, it's, you're just gonna skill deep these guys, so you just go run around. I just sit in the corner the whole round, and I just make them walk at me. And
NJR.
the whole clock, the clock just goes to 0 every time. It's like, okay. So I mean, I'm not reinforcing the bad habits, so I don't think it's harmful to me.
NJR is notoriously for sitting on his cut positions in ranked for the entire round, every single round. Like I've watched him play Cafe and ranked a million times. He goes on an ups, down, down, white stairs rappel every single round. But no, I think on SSG it's absolutely true. Because I'm sick and tired. What I'm sick and tired of hearing is they were close. Like, listen, first of all, I want them to succeed. I love the players on that team. Giddy was my former teammate, and Dream's like a standout guy. I love Aiden. I love Raid. I love those guys. I genuinely, they're standout guys. I want them to succeed. But what I'm tired of hearing from the fans, usually when I say shit like this, it's because I'm tired of hearing shit from the fans or the viewers. Is I'm tired of hearing the whole, bro, they were 1 game off. Dude, you know how I know 1 game off means nothing from the major? Because I was 1 game off. My first stage 2023 with Mr. B, I was 1 game off 3 times. Upper bracket BO3 to make the major, lost that shit. Second game, loser bracket to make the major, lost that shit. Made grand finals at LCQ and then lost that shit again. And then when I was building the new Beast Coast roster in 2024, Spiker came to me and he was just off of Mirage or Wildcard or whatever. He was like, dude, we were 1 game off. We were 1 game off. And they did the same shit. And then that same stage, they also I think they didn't make playoffs or something, right? Like, a lot of people are always 1 game off. It's an old tale. It's an old tale. You don't need to tell me because I've been there. No one needs to tell me that they were 1 game off. 1 game off means nothing until you actually get there.
Yeah, if being 1 game off mattered, and being 1 game off and then losing mattered, I mean, we would all think Troy's a shit can. But he's notorious for going OT, but like he's a winner. Like he wins, and that one, being 1 map off, like. Fett talked about it, being in that situation several times and then like losing that several times. I think it proves that there is just something different about getting over that hump. Like that is a hump that you have to be able to get over to then be able to say like you're good.
Yeah.
It's a perfect time for you to rant about Troy.
Oh. Well, it's not about Troy. It's about the audience reaction. So
you can rant about you can rant about whoever you want, however you want, whenever you want.
On the Troy situation, basically for those who are unfamiliar, after they made grand finals and they lost, I think a lot of people from the community, as Troy, I think I watched a couple segments of the podcast. Troy said it very well. You get a lot more people watching the game. They are younger. It is that era of watching sports and just saying extreme things. A lot of people were calling for Troy to get dropped. I made a naive tweet, right? I was like, they just made grand finals. How could you possibly criticize them? Like they just made grand finals. Like how are they bad? Like they top 2 in the world. And then I said the hate is so forced, right? I think I shouldn't have phrased it that way. That's on me. That's my fault. And then Seth goes, listen, bro, I get that, but you are the one spreading a lot of the hate. Now, my response to that was, you know what, you're right, and I acknowledge that. And I realized I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done the mature response, because I looked at it big picture, right? I looked at it from Seth's POV. I looked at it from, someone like you, Parker, your POV. You're not going to watch my videos. My videos are some brain rot poo-poo dog shit, right? You're not going to watch my videos, right? Like, from the standing point of view, I am probably a direct influence in spreading, that hate, right? But the problem with that is that if you watch the video, I'm defending Troy. In fact, the meme my editor made, the meme I posted is one my editor made making fun of me in the middle of that video because I was sitting there rambling and justifying why I would always pick to have Troy Canadian on my team, despite the fact that he was going negative whatever over the past 4 years. So, that's what pisses me off, is that now, for some reason, there's this, sentiment that every time I compliment Troy, I've switched up on him because I hated on him. when I can't remember a single time in the history of my career where I've not defended Troy, because I think the Troy negative narrative is not new. I get asked every single time Sploit plays. Since 2024, I became a co-streamer. I've been asked about this shit. And every single time, I'm like, you guys don't know what it's like to play against him. And every single time I bring up his stats against Beast Coast, because he would be the only person going positive against Beast Coast and tearing us down because he knew the win cons and shit. And every single time he doesn't play in game, I compliment it. And then in that same video, Seth is referencing, I'm fighting tooth and nail defending Troy against my chat. So you can call me coping, that's fair. But to say I'm switching up is just not factual. And the reason I took accountability is because I understand that if you just look at the thumbnail and then you just watch the first 2 minutes where I present the fact that he has been the most negative player in the past 4 years of Pro League, then you're like, okay, Fett fucking hates this guy. But at the end of the day, man, like, it's just, I'm sick and tired of attributing narratives to what I say. That's currently something that I will admit that I'm frustrated with when I watch games and I break them down. Because I think what I try to do is I try to give the people the most complete picture of something, because people don't have complete pictures of anything in R6. That's the problem in R6. No one has a picture of anything. So anytime I cover a situation or a strategy or something, I'm going to give every collection of data. I'm going to collect every piece of data I can. I'm going to present it all. This part of the community thinks this is what the stats and the facts say and the records say. Here's what I think, right? And I think a lot of people, when I present facts, they're just like, they'll attribute it to what I narratively think. So I'll start off the video saying, factually, Troy Canadian, unfortunately, has been the most negative player in the past 4 years. And then people will click off right there and just be like, Fett, you fucking hate Troy. When the next sentence is, this is heartbreaking for a Troy super fan like myself, because it's hard for me to continue defending it, but I will continue to defend it today in this video right now. And then I go on to defend it, right? And it's like, it just pisses me off, man. I don't prey on anyone's downfall besides whoever's playing against a Midi or 100 Thieves. Like, and then this whole, like, Drip Bullen got to me, man. Drip Bullen got to me, man. And the reason Drip Bullen got to me is because I do sit on fences. I'm not gonna say I don't. Like, I don't care enough to fucking pick a side on every single match, because I don't give a fuck about any outcome unless it involves my old boys. What got to me is the example used was the Troy stuff. And it's like, that's the wrong definition of the word fence-sitting. Fence-sitting means I'm not giving an opinion. I'm not too scared to pick a side. I have picked one side in my whole career, and that is defend Troy Canadian. I have never, ever once said he should be dropped off a team, ever, right? So that's my frustrations. I don't like narratives being attributed when I'm just trying to present the complete picture.
Your chat spent 20 minutes calling me Fat Hagrid, and you did nothing to stop them.
I'm
so did absolutely nothing to stop them, by the way.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Parker.
Look, yeah. I'm obviously not gonna wade into a knife fight. I saw the set of tweets that you had with Super, and we actually did talk about it on the podcast with Troy. And Troy was actually wrong. Troy was like, I don't think Fett and I have ever been on a show together, and that was not true. You guys were on the show together on Beast Coast one.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only time you guys have been on it together. Like, look, even Super acknowledged that later on down the line, that like clickbait and outrage are the two big things that sell on YouTube. Why do you think we spend 30 seconds at the start of every show hyping up what's to come and sometimes teasing things for people to watch? Why do you think you'll watch a video that's a picture of, I saw this the other day and it drove me fucking insane. It's a picture of a bridge in a city, and it's like, this is America's longest bridge in a city, and it's not where you'd think it is. This bridge was, and it just talks about this fucking bridge. It doesn't tell you what the city is until like 55 seconds into the video. And I'm a fucking stupid idiot sucker who just sits there and is like, they'll tell me soon, right? They'll tell me soon, right? So I go to the comments, and of course, I imagine they've deleted the comments saying where it is, because it defeats the whole point, right? Like if I go to the video and I go to the comments and it's like, oh, it's St. Louis, Missouri. It's like, okay, great. And I fuck off and I don't watch the video. There were no comments talking about where it was. So I just sat there for a minute and I was like, fuck, it worked. Like it worked on me, obviously. And again, like there's an information economy out there where you only have so many, unless you're Donk and you have 36 hours in a day, you don't have any more than 24 hours in a day. And you're going to spend that how you see best. If you're on YouTube or you're on a doom scroll or whatever, those videos that force you to stick around after they hook you are the ones that are just like, they're effective, right? And you only have so much time in a day. If your video immediately tells me what I need to know in the first like 4 seconds, I'm probably going to go to another video. So I get it. I get the nature of it. And I get that like time is money and you don't have a lot of time and yada, yada, yada. But also like I'm older. I'm just like, I hate this shit. I hate this garbage. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, we don't name our videos. We don't do the thumbnails. Like, they're all clickbait because they work. But it's like, I don't like that as a person, even though I know like that's the system we exist in. Like, in order to compete, we got to do that. And it sucks that we have to, because I wish it wasn't the case. So it's like, I get that. And even Seth acknowledged that in response to your tweet where he's like, I know, like, you have to do this. I get it. But it is tough because as a content creator, you kind of want to be a provocateur because it draws more eyes to your product, right? Like more people will tune in if you're screaming and being upbeat. Like I can talk about a game the same as you, but with lower energy, and people are not going to be drawn to what I'm saying, even if I say word for word what you say, because I'm not as animated as you are, right? Like especially like the younger audience is going to gravitate towards like explosiveness and bombast and all this stuff. And it's like, maybe I did that 10 years ago, but I'm certainly not doing that these days. And I get that it hurts me. And I get that it ultimately hurts. Anybody who's kind of laid back needs to be themselves at an 11. So I do really understand it. It's just, it sucks that this is the system that we exist within. I wish it wasn't the case. I get where you're coming from. And again, like when I see a lot of these videos that are just like, so obviously just slop for hogs, I'm like, whatever. Like they're just trying to play the game. They're just trying to make money off of YouTube. I don't hate the hustle. I hate the system that we're in. So I appreciate that you take accountability. You know, it's, I say goofy things as a joke on the broadcast from time to time. And, you know, I'll skewer Troy here and there and I'll hear about it when I see him in person and he'll make fun of me for it. But I think it's really important. And this goes back to what Mike had said earlier about the way that we frame it on cast. I think it's really important that we kind of set that tone as well. Because like, you know, when Spoit is playing, when Stompin is playing, when a lot of these like content creators are playing, when Bolo used to play, the chat gets super toxic. It just does. If we lean into that, it just makes it worse. We can't fix it and we can't solve it. Me being super positive about Troy doing poorly and trying to explain to the viewers isn't going to change the mind of 1,000 people watching who are insistent that he's dog shit because he's going 1-4 as Monty never dropping his shield. Sure. But at the very minimum, we can try our best, which is what we do. And that's why we try to give, again, not excuses, but context as to why certain players do certain things. And sometimes we can't give them the benefit of the doubt. But for the most part, we try to make it so that it looks like people are competent. Because there's the also added effect of if I'm shitting on everybody who plays this game and I'm constantly making fun of the boneheaded plays I see in Pro League, why the fuck would you, the viewer, watch it? If I'm constantly telling you how bad these teams are, if I'm constantly telling you how bad these players are, and I'm constantly putting people down, why should you care? Why should you be invested? You're going to think it's a joke. So, you know, we've Jesse and I in particular have worked really hard to kind of work in as much praise as we can within reason and keep out as much negativity as possible. And from what I've heard, the viewers are noticing, and we've had a couple comments here in the videos as well, where people have said, like, I've noticed that change. And I think it's good because at the end of the day, Siege is a hard game to watch. There's a lot of downtime. It gets quite boring. You need to give people an answer to the question, why? Why should I watch? Why should I care? Why should I stick around? And that is ultimately the question that every caster should keep on top of mind. And we try to do it by being positive and sell you stories on players. And if somebody's doing really poorly, if somebody's dropping a goose egg, then we can talk about other matches. We can talk about other players. And it just gives people a reason to actually invest in our esport, which frankly is never a bad thing. So that's all.
I think I'm sick and tired of being the bigger person, Parker.
You could shrink.
No, because the point is that because I sat there and I thought of the bigger picture, all in all, understanding everyone's perspective, y'all are right. Now, for someone like you who didn't watch the video, you'll think that I spent that video shit talking Troy. The point is that the point of that video was defend Troy. The point of the video is that my opinion is that I would still take Troy any day. And now, anyone who doesn't watch that video, or anyone just thinks I just shit talk Troy, I could have easily said that. I could have easily said, what about Super's old co-streams where he sent hordes and hordes of hate to every single player he watched, and every T2 player under the sun despised being watched by Super because he was sending hordes and hordes of hate to every single player he watched. I could have said that too. I didn't say that. But I'm sick and tired of not saying that. Point being, I'm sick and tired of being mature, Parker. I'm sick and tired of it. It's time to be immature. I'm going to start picking fights, man. I'm pissed.
Fett, I fear that if I asked our guests, our viewers, if they think you are mature or immature, I feel like their response would not land where you want them to land.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start playing into what they think. Fuck you. Fuck you. You don't get what you asked for, bro.
Whatever people say I am is what I am, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%.
Do you have anything to say about Troy and Shopify Rebellion before we scuttle along to briefly talk about the 2 SAL days and then conclude talking about Dokkaebi and Rank 3.0?
Not much to say about Troy. I mean, I like Troy. He's a player I've looked up to. I mean, I've been playing this game since I was 11 years old. He's been playing that whole time. I'm 21 now, so it's 10 years. I've seen this guy on my screen for 10 years, right? And I have a lot of respect for him. I got to meet him in Toronto. Great guy. Got to ramble to him while I was really drunk in a bar in Toronto. That was fun. But no, I mean, not much to say about Troy. He has his value in a team clearly. I think everyone knows that. I think the biggest thing, about the whole Troy situation though, would be like, about Fed is, I think it's important that for someone like Fed to be, when Troy and Spoit and like all those guys, that Fed is, talking about all this negative narrative around them, Fed is just as loudly singing their praises, right? Whenever they do good. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think I understand why they were upset about it. It's, as a player, the person that's being talked about, it's really easy for what Fett says to get to you. But I understand that. I know, Fett's, coached. He has insight on, the way we think as players. I know he's smart enough to do that, to sing those praises, and I've seen it before where he is praising these people just as loudly as he speaks about them negatively, because he does take into consideration what those people think. At least I think you do. But that's my thing. I had that whole thing as a player with Gunner, dude. When I was shitting T2, he was clowning on me. There was a bad clip of me in a 1v1. That was bad. But Gunner was just as loud about, when I was doing good in T2, saying I'm next up, whatever, as he was talking shit. And I think it's all, like you talked about, it's just a product of the way the world works right now is, pulling on emotion pays. That's a whole other conversation in its own, whether it's, the right thing to do or not, that's a whole other conversation. But I think it's important when you're someone like Fed and he does what he does, you are just as vocal about the positives as you are the negatives. And so,
I actually think my reputation is that I glaze everyone too much, so I'm too positive apparently. No, I'm joking.
How is that bad? How is that bad?
I don't know. I can't do anything right, Parker. No matter what I do, there's something horribly wrong with it. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna just start crashing out. I'm gonna start crashing out because whatever, man. Sick of it. Anyways, Shopify Rebellion, they look good. They're obviously 2 grand finalist teams actually living up to their grand finalist form in that first week. I think that's really important because I think a lot of teams you anticipate like the fall off, right? Like the cool down, the reset period right after a win. And I think it just looks great for NA that they're doing so well. And they're so consistent. I think with Shopify, it's really nice to see that because, especially considering their kickoff stage, right, where they had a load of inconsistencies. They had a load of inconsistencies even before that, I believe. And now it looks like they've found an identity and a form that they are consistent and they look good and they are not making a lot of the blunders that they were making back in last year. So I think they're good. I think they found their stride. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to everyone on that team. I think everyone's stepping up. I think Seth, especially his coaching, I think has progressed a lot. Like the way I've seen his coaching progress from the beginning of last year to where, talks on expectations were a big factor. And I think that weighed a lot of mental pressure on them. And now he's strayed away from that. He's always proud of them. He's always turning negatives into positives. He's breaking down game plans very clearly. I think Troy also adapted a lot faster of a play style. That's one thing I noticed. If you notice SR, they have a lot of cheese now. They have a lot of ways they can flip their default pushes into a fast hit on a part of map control you never would have anticipated off like a fake sense wall. That video's up right now, by the way. Check out the Fett YouTube channel. I'm joking. Please don't. Yeah. I think they found their stride. I think they found their stride in their middle ground and their comfort zone, and they have a basis of consistency where if you're an SR fan, you're not going to be having, hopefully, knock on wood, too many heart attacks anymore.
It is very fitting that the 2 SLC major finalists are the 2 undefeated teams. Well, I guess technically M80 is undefeated, but they went 2 overtime. The 2 teams that have yet to drop a point, let's put it that way. They're both playing very well, I think, for very different reasons. I mean, near identical round differential, really good stats on their fraggers. Obviously like Fultz and Canadian have taken a beating in terms of their stats, but that's maybe not so much to be expected with Fultz because he kind of ebbs and flows depending on the map. But it's nice to see that consistency. And frankly, I know that Troy is a personal friend of mine, and I know that people think that I'm unable to separate my friendship from my working relationship. Of course, as a friend, I always want to see Troy do well. But at the end of the day, like, that doesn't blind me to his team's weaknesses, and it certainly doesn't color ultimately my casting. Like, if Troy's team, loses, which I'm just going to say it, I've had the privilege of sitting on a lot of casts where Troy's team suffered humiliating defeats. Like, I voiced a lot of those moments, so obviously it sucks as a person, but I'm always happy to see good competitive Siege, and it's nice to see Shopify Rebellion doing well because it's a Canadian org. It's a big Canadian org. Like they care. They invest a lot of money. They had the LAN obviously for Spoit that Mike was at. It's it was a huge opportunity for T2 and below players, and it's cool to see them doing well. Let's just put it that way. So it's nice to see that one of what seemingly is a good org is being rewarded for their investment, which again kind of goes back as a point of contrast to some of the orgs we talked about earlier that don't really invest money in it. Not that I don't want them to do well, but it's like it always kind of stings just like because I'm also a fan of this esport. It also sucks when I see, orgs I know behind the scenes are objectively bad doing well. It always is kind of a bummer. So with that said, I think that's about it on NA. Just because of timing, let's move very quickly over to Brazil. Brazil only did 2 play days. Mike, did you watch either of the Brazil play days?
Not live. I went back and watched some of the games I thought might be more interesting. Just like looking at the score lines. I think their schedule is pretty like black and white. Favorites versus underdogs, and I think a lot of the favorites came out. I will say I definitely know the most about NA, of course, and then know a decent amount about EU, but Brazil is like where it kind of tapers off my knowledge. So I think some of the middle of the pack teams I'm not too familiar with. But Liquid, I mean, clean wins against lower tier teams. I mean, that's good. You want to see that, especially after they just missed an event, right? They're, always going to be concerned about how that affects the team. But there's no doubt in my mind that those Liquid players, at the very least the core, have great resilience. I mean, those guys, they missed out on Montreal or whatever, and then they still came back and they won an event after that, FaZe convincing win. The Fluxo Black Dragons one I thought might be interesting, but it was just strong defense sided clubhouse.
By the way, speaking of Fluxo W7M, I understand that losing Volps sucks, and there's no doubt that he's good at what he does. But I did not expect this implosion of that roster.
Yeah.
Like, you've still got Loban on the team, who's terrific. Like, you've still got Palu, who's a real force of nature. Like, that team just seems so aimless right now, and it's really it's stunning how bad they have looked compared to the rest of Brazil.
Yeah, that is like the one thing I'd say is like that's noticeable about Brazil, at least from these 2 play days, and even kickoff is Fluxo, concerned with Fluxo. I mean, other than that, I think it was pretty cut and dry 2 play days.
Yeah. And I mean, take a look at the standings, right? Top 4 teams, all 2-0, pretty much identical round differential. Brazil is a really competitive region. I mean, obviously they had struggles at Salt Lake. A couple people jokingly referred to it as a century of humiliation for Brazil. I mean, bottom teams, like I imagine like INTZ, Loud, and Imperial will be 3 bottom tier teams. I don't think anybody's kidding themselves there. You've got Los and Black Dragons, who should be solidly middle of the pack. Who knows where Fluxo W7M ends up, and then you've got the top teams just doing as they do. I mean, the bigger story for Brazil is going to be what happened at Salt Lake City. Fett, I don't know if you watched any of the Brazil games at Salt Lake City, but it is very apparent that they were just bad, not good. FaZe Clan was the only seemingly competent team. Furia got absolutely annihilated. Nip didn't look much better. Like that, just whatever reason that whole region just kind of caved in. Los was there. Like,
I mean, the current like atmosphere is that Brazil dominates SIs, NA dominates majors, and EU farms EWCs. Which is statistically true if you look at the past 3 years. I mean, what? Secret BDS? PDS? Like, come on. That's a U.
You're playing
FaZe, W7M for SI, and then Beast Coast, W7M, M80, DarkZero.
Hold on a second. 2 minutes ago, you posted on Twitter that you finally got 18-0. You were playing this while doing the show?
I was playing 18-0, bro. Come on. I got MikeW team and I re-rolled that shit. I'm so sorry, MikeW. I could only get Bino. I only had 1 slot left. I would have picked you, MikeW, but I couldn't.
No, I get it. I saw some crazy ones that someone like picked. There's like Shaiko stomping, 2 other like is like all like 97s plus, and they put me. And I replied with the clown with the soldiers.
You're the greatest.
I had one where I got NJR at Charlotte, and I got NJR at Salt Lake City, and he was like a 99 in one and like a 98 in the other, and I still
you got 2 NJR.
I still got like 16 and 2, and I was like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I remember I was doing it with Mint and I were doing some DBNO prep, and we were hanging out on a voice call. And I showed him my screen, and he's like, NJR twice? Who the fuck's entering the building? Dude, nobody's getting close. What was Mike's rating? Did you see Mike W's rating?
I did not, because it like... Wait. No.
One of the ones I was on, it was like I think
I'm
it was like a
over.
low 80s, like a 83 maybe.
That's pretty good, man. Honestly,
Yeah.
like...
Yeah, off a kickoff.
I'll take 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck yeah.
Just so you know,
All
I
right,
am playing Supers one right now.
What is it? Something Chase the Hammer?
Yes.
Do you notice any big difference between the two of them?
Supers is a lot harsher with rating, and I think the other one is completely subjective, and I think that guy watches my videos because all the players I glaze have like 99s.
Not much more to say about Brazil, by the way. There really wasn't much. It was 2 play days. They were both very routine. The top teams annihilated the bottom teams. That's about it. Whether they farm SI or not, it's still a very good region. FaZe Clan are still one of the best teams in the world, and there's high likelihood that they could end up winning the Japanese major if they make it. So I think the big question mark for me in Brazil is watching how Furia develops. Furia, a lot of people said, were farming some of the bad teams on their road in the kickoff. If we can bring up just just the results for everybody now. Furia 7-3'd Los and 7-3'd INTZ. Certainly not beating the allegations of farming bad teams on that one. You beat, well, I guess technically Los is in 5th place, but Los are just, they beat Loud in overtime and then got smoked by Furia. This was way too early for us to talk about Brazil, unfortunately. Next show we'll be able to get it, but really not that much. And then unfortunately APAC is just getting underway, and you know, we don't watch those. I watch APAC back usually around the time of the majors because I don't have 36 hours in my day. So that basically concludes that. And obviously China is also very hard to watch for us. But Eric, I mean, you've been glazing CNL. You been watching any of it?
I know, but I think All Gamers really impressed me at the major. I think I expected China to kind of get rolled by everyone. I think All Gamers making it to that last round in their first ever run is fairly impressive. Yeah, because if you think about what we typically see as a surprise from APAC is lead, go up 2-0 in a Swiss stage, and then they fucking choke it. But then they're hyped up for that 2-0, right? People really are riding on that. AG just did that, and that's that region's first ever event, or not did that. Never mind, I lied. They were 2-3. They were 1-3. Sorry, I thought they were
Furia
2-3.
though.
They did beat Furia. Yeah. Okay, never mind. I take back I thought they were in the final round. I thought that oh no, the 5 years controversy was before that. Never mind. I take everything I said back. I'm an idiot. Well, I'm looking out for them though. I'm looking out for them. I'm really hoping this adds a new region to see because I think that'll just make everything more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that, Mike.
I think it's nice too. It's not gonna be another. I don't think it's just gonna be an addition to APAC because they do, from what I hear, have regulations as far as limiting the nationalities of players. I think it does have to be a full Chinese roster. So I think that's a plus. Gives a real chance for that region to develop because you're not just adding you're not just importing players, there's that whole conversation with importing players, and then probably I think it'll be a good positive influence on the development of the Asia region,
Providing that they can play. I still don't have an answer to that. Fett, do you know? Can CNL players play? Can they scrim against Japanese and Korean teams, which are relatively close by?
I have no idea.
Would you say, Mike?
Because I'm Chinese.
Why would Fett know?
No, not because he's Chinese, you idiot. Because he likes CNL and watches it, and he's intimately familiar with the teams and the players. I don't know if he has any ball knowledge.
I don't watch CNL. I sadly don't watch any CNL. I watched.
You were watching Chinese teams when we were recording a show one day. Don't say that.
Okay, that was SILCQ, bro. That was prime time. Okay, my fault. I'm so sorry.
Now somebody's gonna make a clickbait thing about Interro racist.
I mean, yeah. Let's talk about it.
What is there to talk about?
I'm joking.
What do you want to talk about? I support all regions. I want CNL to do well. I don't know. Mike, do you know the answer to the fucking question then? Do you know if they can play?
Oh, no clue. I didn't even consider that when I was talking about it.
Yeah,
but I think regardless, them having international experience, and I mean, I'm assuming at the very least, boot camping maybe in other countries prior to events, but still closer to China, maybe a possibility. I don't know. Either way, Asian teams are usually, I mean, we see an FPS is typically a little weaker. I mean, not all, but
yeah, I would say in more util dominant FPSs like Val and Overwatch, they're actually pretty strong. Siege is that weird, I don't know where the fuck it lands. It's not like Val, It's more. I think it's more. Fuck, is it more CS than Val? Because I think Shields kind of change it. Shields and fucking Chonkas and Fires. And
I think currently it's getting closer to that.
Yeah, for
more
sure.
Util dominant. It's weird. I think that's something we'll talk about later. Is I think we're a little further from the FPS thing than at least I would like, or I
Yeah.
see Siege as.
Well, I agree.
Currently.
Even JV92 said like 2 seasons ago that like Siege is a MOBA, but no one's ready to have that conversation yet.
There's been a good talk, which just for timing, I think we have to keep for the next one, which was about Fresh's tweet, where he basically said, like, I'm tired of operators doing all the drone work for me. I wish people used to have to drone and plan, and now the operators do everything on my own. And I mean, granted, like, you're going to run out of opportunities to come up with unique operators that don't use Intel. Intel is very much the name of the game, but it certainly does feel like drones are not as necessary as they used to be. And whether you want to argue that it makes it easier to entry or not, it definitely changes the game. And we'll use that as a great segue to talk about our favorite operator, Dokkaebi, who received a rework. And she was too strong. And she is still too strong. And a lot of people are arguing about how strong she is. And it prompted Ubisoft to say this, the Dokkaebi changes. Ubisoft announcing that there would be some balance tuning for Dokkaebi, saying that there will be adjustments. I'll read the exact body text for those of you that don't have a visual component. It says, today marks the first full week of the Dokkaebi remaster, and it's clear she's enjoyed the extra attention, though maybe a little too much. Dokkaebi can be persistent with her back-to-back calls, and defenders have shared their feedback. To that end, we'll have adjustments coming this season aimed at reducing some of that frustration. We'll continue listening to your feedback and monitoring Dokkaebi's performance as the season continues to unfold. Thank you, and keep your feedback coming. Now, I remember when I play tested Lion. That was about 10 years ago. And there was absolutely no cooldown. And one of the first things we said was like, you need to put a cooldown on this, because what's to stop you from just spamming it and just keeping somebody stuck in place? I don't really understand how these things keep happening over and over again. I get that they want to release an operator a bit more powerful and then tune her down. I think that's a perfectly viable strategy, and I don't have a problem with that. But it was so abundantly clear that Dokkaebi was too annoying and too strong. So I just don't really understand why they let her out of the cage with her being the way she is. Mike is somebody who has probably played her and almost certainly played against her. What are your thoughts on Dokkaebi, and if you were to nerf her? Because that seems like what's going to be coming. What would you do?
Definitely really strong. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. I agree. I think it's crazy that these things keep happening. Power creeps, in games like I think like ability-based games specifically, I think it's common occurrence. But like power creep, right? Newer characters always just coming out being stronger. And I think we're really seeing that. I mean, as to how I would nerf her is remove the fire, number one. I think that's the most obvious thing. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. Someone was on some amount of weed to even think of that coming from that. Why are we dropping fire on my feet? I don't know. I thought the phone blowing up was enough. But I think that goes to another issue, or maybe not issue, but current situation with the game, which is like, I think what we currently see in competitive is the smaller maps being less viable, or maybe not even necessarily smaller maps, but maps you can play from outside the building. I think it's important to have that kind of distinction there, because like Bank is a map I'd clump in with some of the smaller maps because you're able to play so much from outside. But those maps where you don't have much space, like you have 5 square inches you can move around in, but now there's this operator that can deny you from playing that tiny space without taking any risk. It just doesn't make sense. There's no risk to the reward. And also, like, not only adding this or changing her to this, but then removing or changing how her counters work, just doesn't make much sense to me. Yeah, I think the whole thing just doesn't make any sense. I think it's an absurd oversight. Yeah, I mean, that's my take on it.
I think actually after watching a bit of Pro League that it's not. I think it is overtuned. I don't think it's as overtuned as I thought initially it would be, because I think people have realized that just taking the damage is just a viable option. That being said, I think that's like philosophically a flaw. I don't think it should be optimal for you to take 40 damage. Like I don't think that should be like a concept in the game. Hey, it's better for me to take 40 damage and not be able to go on camps for the rest of the round. I don't think that's a I don't think that should be a concept within the game. That being said, I think the biggest issue is the spam calling. I think just the back to back to back to back calling, I think, is the biggest issue for me. I think philosophically, it's also a tough position to be the dev team in right now, because to be in the shoes of the dev team, because I think when they initially did this, they were like, yeah, let's target roamers and flankers, and the focus of this season is roaming and flanking, and the focus of this year is roaming and flanking. And then now Dokkaebi is now equally, if not more powerful for clearing out power spots and anchor spots, right? Like, you got a guy top garage on clubhouse rafters, and it's like before you would have to like line up nades, capitals, still pretty like age to play up there, but now you get doke called. Like, you could get a Montaigne walking up at you, and then you get doke called, and then you have to let it blow up in your hands, or else the Montaigne unshields and ADSs you, and then you take 40 guaranteed damage, and then who knows what else people can do for you. But that being said, I think it's not as crazy as I thought it was, but I do agree that like the whole droneless info thing is a big problem. I think like with Snake, Deimos, and now Doke, like the three musketeers, I think they have definitely drastically changed the way the game is played. And yeah, man, I don't know. I think one underspoken fundamental flaw with two of these operators, Deimos and Dokkaebi, is how impossible they make clutches. Like, if you are in a 1vx, I think the brilliance of a tactical FPS is that a 1vx is always like, there's a possibility of it, Like, you're in League of Legends or in Overwatch, and you're in a 1v, you're fucked. You're fucked. There's nothing you can do. In CS, coldzera gets in a 1v5, and there's like the chance, right? And that's what makes hype esports moments. Clutches make amazing esports moments. It lends to the game. It lends to what makes attack FPS. That's why I wanted to switch over from League of Legends. That's my main game when I was a kid, because it's like, no matter what, I can always win that 1v5. I'm cracked enough. I think Deimos with the track at the end of the round, and I think Dokkaebi with calls at the end of the round kind of removes that. Obviously, it's still winnable. It's not unwinnable, but I feel like low key, it's like Montaigne in a 1v1 post plant, Deimos in like a 1v1, and Dokkaebi in XV1 kind of are those frustrating moments in the viewer where I'm like, oh my god, 1v3 to save his team. He gets Deimos tracked, and it's like all my tension just went away. I'm just like, he fucking lost. It's over. It's GG's, And I think that's a bit frustrating as a viewer, as a player, and just in general. And I think maybe a way to fix that, at least for Deimos, is like maybe have scaling time limits on the ping. Like, as there's less people in the round, it lasts less and less and less and less. I don't know what the fuck they would do for Dokkaebi, and I don't know what the fuck they should do with Montaigne, but either way, I think those are three frustrating moments that I witness a lot.
Yeah, I think the big issue for me when I watch an operator like Deimos is just like suitable lack of counterplay. He has the obvious like constant updated tick, whereas for you it's delayed, which stands to reason. Like, why give you the defender equal footing as the attacker? The whole point is to give the attacker an advantage. But I just think it's so oppressive. And again, like, I'm sure Ubisoft thinks of this, but you can't look at every operator in a vacuum. You have to think about how they work with others. And it's like Deimos by himself is annoying. And if you face him in like lower level ranked, or even like ranked that's not very well coordinated, he's not that strong. He's annoying, but sure, like, he's nothing terrible. Like, I know I got kind of dunked on by Troy and Mint about this on a recent show, but I mean, if you're playing in like gold, plat, fucking like even like that area of ranked, and you're playing with an uncoordinated team and there's a Cav on the board, she seems like the most broken operator on the planet, right? Like, Deimos can feel the same, but it's like when then you add Deimos alongside a Snake or a Dokkaebi, and then you bring the Monty, it's like he doesn't just become oppressive, he becomes downright impossible to beat, because if he's not going to beat you, somebody else is. So I don't know. I haven't had, admittedly, I've been so busy since the new season came out. I have not been able to play Siege, so I don't know anything about Dokkaebi in terms of like her actual hands-on experience. Haven't played the Calypso Casino map at all either, so I can't really weigh in on any of this stuff. I think it'd be wrong for me to do so. I can just tell you that as a caster, intel operators make our job a lot easier. You know, like I don't have to guess if somebody's droned you out if I can see that your phone is ringing or you're being tracked by Deimos. It actually makes my job a lot easier. But I do find myself often agreeing with Fresh, where it's like part of Siege used to be droning in the way that you play around that information and how you follow up. And now that's largely useless. You can just bring a Snake and a Deimos, maybe a Dokkaebi or a Lion if they're not banned, not obviously all four of those together, but you can bring some kind of unholy combination of them. And it's not fun. It's just flat out not fun. So like, I would like to see us maybe scaling some of that back. I'm all for buffing, by the way. Like I'm so into buffing operators right now, and I like that Ubisoft is doing it. But I do think some of the intel ops could get hit with a bit of a nerf so that we could push more people back into droning, because it's not just pro play. If your teammates lock in like a Dokkaebi and a Deimos and they don't talk to you, that information's useless. And it's like if they die, could have found more, useful operators. So I don't know. By the way, MikeW, you are an 85 on Super's Chase the Hammer. Not bad, Mike.
Not bad. First stage, first season, and not necessarily a what you'd consider a winning team. I'll take it. Playing for the stats paid off.
Mike, you should do more of that this stage.
Yeah, definitely.
Last point, unless you guys have anything more to talk about, we're going to very briefly get into ranked 3.0. Any concluding thoughts on Dokkaebi before we move on?
No.
Let's very quickly go over to ranked 3.0. And then, Mike, I'm going to try something on you that I've been thinking about doing for a while, which is a questionnaire for our quote-unquote guests. Again, I know you're not really a traditional guest this time, but I do have some questions I'd like to just ask, very rapid fire. I'm a big fan of a show called Inside the Actors Studio, where James Lipton used to conclude every single broadcast by asking the same questions to every single actor. They're just short little rapid fire questions, so we'll get to them. But first, let's do rank 3.0. David, if you'd like, throw the pictures up on the screen. There's two of them. It basically talks about how it functions and what the point is. And effectively, ranked 3.0 no longer hides your rank. It just displays it. That's your rank. You are that rank. And you grind, and that's it. Wins and losses count. Your KDA does not count. It is very difficult to climb to the top. No, through sheer force of will, playing 36 hours a day, you will not hit champion. You actually need to be champion level to get to champion. Obviously, this has caused a lot of problems because there are people who are used to seeing an inflated rank icon next to their name who are now very upsetty spaghetti that they are no longer of that rank, and they are huffing copium over on all forms of social media, complaining about rank 3.0. Again, I have yet to test rank 3.0 myself because I haven't been able to physically play the game in the last couple of weeks. Gentlemen, do you have any thoughts on this system? Is it an improvement or a step back from ranked 2.0?
I also haven't played the game. Too much science. I'll let the guy who's actually played go first.
I'd say definitely an improvement. I think it brings it back to closer, to ranked 1.0. I mean, quite honestly, it's very similar, I think. I think it might be even harder to climb. If there's any adjustment to be made, maybe just a small adjustment to the amount gained and loss, right? So it's not as many gigs. It's a hell of a grind right now, even for players who were champ last season, which I guess, I don't know if they said doesn't, it's a soft reset. But
Yeah.
Even then, I don't hate it. I'm always down to encourage more grinding than less. I think even for aspiring players, I think it's good to have a competitive rank system, a more difficult rank system. I got very lucky with my timing of getting into competitive, where I was playing ranked 1.0, and that's how I made a lot of my first connections. I met Diffuser. This is far before he ever played comp and 1t2, but I did good in ranked. Diffuser picked me up to his stack, invited me to his Discord, and we would play ranked. And I met other good better players like that. In rank 2.0, you don't get that at all. So I think I've been a strong believer since rank 2.0 has settled when after it settled in, that I think it hurt the aspiring player pool. It also just, if you want to practice, say, outside of scrims, ranked wasn't competitive, wasn't fun because it wasn't competitive for good competitive players. But now it's going to be closer to or more competitive games, which allows for better practice, wanting to practice more outside of scrims again. And I think it's a big plus, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just philosophically, like, I think the opportunity to improve is more important than making people feel like they've achieved something when they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, there's a lot of people who take shortcuts. Look at the amount of people who cheat in video games. Look at the amount of people who exploit in video games, get boosted in video games. There are a lot of people who want to stand on somebody's shoulders and say that they're 6 feet tall. I think it's something you should aspire to. And I think it's the same with just about any system. Like, you really should be grinding for whatever you've got. It should be an accomplishment. I know that people joke about this, but I get really annoyed when I play ranked, which for me is the most competitive game mode I'm going to play because I'm not a pro. I'm probably not playing in the Siege Cups. So ranked to me is my pro league. And you've got some dickhead who's been boosted by his friends, who's playing music, not paying attention, not using his mic. And eventually you say like, hey man, can you make a call out? And he's like, dude, it's not that serious. Ranked should be serious. It is by default the most competitive game mode in the game. We should be doing everything in our power to make it as serious and as rewarding and frankly, as honest as possible. People being on inflated ranks is not honest. And it really does kind of suppress everybody else. And it doesn't give you a good idea of people's skill levels. So I completely agree with you on that, Mike. And I look at rank 3.0 and everything I see on the surface seems good. I don't really have any complaints from what I've seen. Maybe when I actually get enough time to spend some, time playing ranked, I will then get around to forming an opinion. But right now it's like, these seem like great changes. And, if a bunch of people who are used to being, of inflated elos are upset, then honestly, good. That sounds like the system is literally doing what it was intended to do. So I can't take any umbrage with that. I can't take any fault with that. And at the end of the day, like, you should be placed appropriately. Being able to play more games than somebody else and just kind of hoping that you rise your way to the top is not how you should be hitting champ. It should actually be a grind. It should mean something. Like, when you get top 500, when you get champ, it should matter and it should be impactful. And that seems like what rank 3.0 is going for. So in that sense, I'm a pretty big proponent of that.
I think a lot of wording, there was obviously a lot of backlash from the community when rank 3.0 first came out. And I think a lot of the wording that, obviously, grain of salt, I haven't played it, but a lot of the wording that stuck with me that really bothered me is people having equated the idea of rank with progression in the game. They're like, I thought rank 3.0 was supposed to give me progression like I've never seen before. And it takes this long to hit champ now. Like, it's not a milestone achieved with time. That's levels. You're thinking of levels. That's what progression is your level in a video game. That's progression. Ranked is not level of experience points. Ranked is how much you're fucking winning and losing, right? And when you look at games that have ranks that people actually talk about, it takes that much to hit top levels, right? Like, you go down the list of like challengers or masters players in League of Legends. The average number of games is like 500 to 1,000. Now, granted, could it possibly take too much games right now to climb in seats? Yes, absolutely. They might need to adjust that, like Mike said. But at the same time, it's like, it's supposed to be a fucking grind. This is the top of our game, Like, it's not just some fucking participation trophy. We don't get to sit here and LARP being champ, right? Like League of Legends, top 1,000 players, all of them minimum like 500 games, average of like 1,000, right? I think one of the competitive Apex seasons, one of the viewers, I don't know Apex Legends, same thing, right? CS, Face It, all the level 10 Face It people, you go to the fucking 4,000 matches, like thousands and thousands and thousands of matches. You know, like it's supposed to take that long because it's supposed to mean something. And when it means something, people talk about it. And when things mean stuff and people talk about it, rank actually matters again, right? Like that's the point. I keep using this example over and over. Spoit made a name off hitting #1 champ, and then that went away, and no one ever gave a shit about it ever again, right?
Asian
but it's
Ashen.
like, yeah, Asian and Ashen, same fucking thing. Right? Like, so many streamers came out the woodworks because they were playing on these 3 a.m. stacks, beating everyone. And it's like, that used to be a great marketing. Hold on. Point for the game. And League of Legends, it's the same thing. Where did you go? League of Legends is the same thing, where it's like, you can build an entire private coaching career off of hitting ranked 1 a single time, bro. There's some despicable humans in League of Legends that have built entire careers off of hitting rank 1 just a single time, and then they just sit back and just profit off that for the rest of their lives, and they have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And we could have that too if we accept this system that actually matters. That's it. Is it flawed? Probably. But is it way better than rank 2.0? Absolutely.
And Aiden Tax is now the #1 ranked player, and as you can see, that's had a big impact on pro play.
Damn.
Those are some good tweets after that first game. I like that.
I mean, he ate shit so spectacularly. Like, I gotta hand it to him. Like, he ate a family size serving of humble pie. Dude, after that.
Oh, that's just
he was humble and hungry. I think you could say, Mike. I think he was humble and hungry.
Absolutely. I think Aiden has a good head on him as far as, you know, taking people's criticisms and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, look, yeah, wait. Put that on the screen. Yo, David, put my thing on the screen and put your thing on the screen, bro. Come on, that's for reference. That's Diamond. Masters League of Legends.
The thing David has on the screen, by the way, that's League, I believe, or
that's League.
Deadlock.
Look at that. The bottom of fucking. Oh my god. But these are still like. This is what Siege's numbers are right now. Diamond 5 is 0.325% of the player base, right? Like. Look at that bottleneck is so satisfying. Look at the Emerald. Look at Emerald where the players just end, bro. Shit, I'd probably be an Emerald player now too. Like, but I don't deserve it, man. I don't fucking deserve it, Parker.
I remember like telling my parents like I got like top 500 in the video game. Like I was proud of that.
Yeah.
And even recently, like I've picked up CS to try to learn another like FPS and get like good at another game, just to, you know, see what I could do. And I was so close to top. I was like this close to top 1,000. I was so proud of that because in that game, again, like the rank means something.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're doing this. I mean, I think the only concern is them. You know, I think this is a good example of them listening to the community and feedback. My only concern is if that keeps up, you know, all these people that are complaining about it, who I don't think should be complaining about it, you know, could we see some maybe poor changes? But I think this has been handled well so far. I think rank 3.0 is a net positive. I think it's good for the content side of games, content side of the game, like you mentioned. Yeah. I think it'll be good for the underager pool. I think that's something that's really been weak since ranked 2.0. I mean, I think it also coincides with other things, but it's like we don't have like these pools of players anymore where like, you know, this is the next up and coming underage talent like we did. Like you know, I didn't watch or know about the OB team before they were all good, but like Aerial Rise, right?
I got real dicked down by that OB team every single time I played them. When T3, I was the team that beat everyone but that team, and then we just get dicked down by them. But honestly, God, bro, speaking of what you just said earlier, just make it like fake rank 2.0 until gold, and then turn it into real rank. Just let it be that, bro. Let them experience what it's like to get at a copper.
I mean, I think that's pretty close to what ranked 1.0 was like. Like the lower you got in Elo, the closer to like I guess what is it, a bell curve, or closer to the middle of the curve, the more, I think the larger the range, and maybe even just the lower half of the bell curve, the larger the like range of elo of like a lobby you could get into was.
Yeah.
Most people should be around gold in most games, based on the way that ranking distribution is done. Like silver and like gold-ish should be where like 40% of the player base is.
Yeah.
If not a little more. And then obviously you have like kind of the people down in like copper or bronze or iron or whatever ranks they'd be. Then obviously it should like dramatically fall off once you get above like plat or diamond.
Yeah.
So. Anything else about rank 3.0? No?
No.
So again, I'm a big fan of James Lipton. I'm a big fan of Inside the Actors Studio. And I think it's cool to have a standardized list of questions that we ask our guests. Now, I'm workshopping these, and I think this is a good time for, if you've made it this far in the show, which not everybody does, but if you've made it this far in the show, I'm soliciting some feedback. I have very quickly whipped together 10 questions that are very short. They don't need to be super long answers for you. Very basic stuff. And I'm, eventually we'll land on some consistency, and then every single guest will get asked these same questions. So the first question is going to be, how did you discover Siege?
Someone I was living with at the time had the game. They owned the game. I tried it. This is like back in Black Ice. I was playing on Xbox. They happened to have the game. I tried it. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the depth of the game.
How did you get your name, MikeW?
My Xbox username, which was Mike Wakachowski. It wasn't Mike Wazowski, but it was based on, like, the name comes from this meme, it was Mike Kachowski. It was Mike Wazowski mixed with Lightning McQueen, and I was like 10 years old, and that shit was the funniest thing to me ever. And then I switched to PC. At the time, I couldn't make that wouldn't fit as my name, so I just shortened it to MikeW. And as I considered my brand going forward, I stuck with it.
What is your favorite operator?
Ooh.
Can be to play, can be to watch, can be concept.
Oh, I'm opening. My game's already open, so I'm just.
Dokkaebi.
Oh, hell no. My team hears it all the time. My disdain for RAM. I hate RAM. Playing against it. I think probably be Thermite. Thermite or Mute always like came up kind of playing like support-ish roles.
The next question, it seems like you've already answered, is what is your least favorite operator?
RAM. To hell with RAM. From the little I've ever spoken with devs, I told them to delete RAM from the game. I said, like, what the hell were y'all thinking? I don't think I said that to them, but I said, delete RAM from the game.
Were they receptive to that idea?
No, they muted me after that, unfortunately.
Unbelievable. What is one change, and you're not allowed to say delete RAM, what is one change you would make to the game were you given the power to do so?
Ooh. Off the top of my head, like the idea of everyone being 2-2, I think that's like like 2 armor, 2 speed. I think that's an okay idea. I mean, focusing the game around intel gathering. I think droning's what makes Siege so unique from other 5v5s. And I guess it's not like a single change, but it's like we were talking about with Snake and Dokkaebi and Deimos, it's Journey is what makes Siege so unique, Like, I mean, we saw in the, what is it, E3 or the big, announcement trailer when the game was in like pre-alpha development. Droning, right?
You find the woman crying on the floor on a drone, and you're like, "What is this? I'm not a person. I'm a little machine."
Oh, you know what? Going back to that trailer, opening the entire floor, no metal beams. Let me drop through the whole floor like it's the grand larceny event. Let me do that.
Oh,
No, that'd be terrible for competitive viability. But
Think about how good RAM would be. That drone would just do one thing and then just it'd
oh,
be gone.
damn you! Oh my God, no. Oh Lord,
She'd go from one floor to the next, and
my
top
nightmare.
4 floors in one.
it doesn't have to pertain to gaming. What is your greatest memory? It can pertain to gaming. It's up to you to
Yeah,
answer the
gaming. I
question.
mean, gaming's been a huge part of my life, so I think I don't know. Maybe it's recency bias, but I went to this concert with my girlfriend, and it was like my first time ever going to a concert. This is like
Who-
a month
who was
ago,
it?
two months ago. Ethel Kane. It was someone she really wanted to see. I wasn't familiar with the artist. I was like, we drove like 3 hours to go see her because she really wanted to see her, and I didn't. It was a birthday gift, so
Preacher's Daughter is a great album.
yeah. I mean, I really like the music, especially like I mean, I've grown up in the South, and that there's a lot of ties with it and church and whatnot, and it was I mean, it was a crazy experience. It's definitely like very emotion, like it provoked a lot of like emotions, I'd say. Put it simply, I guess. I don't know, but it was a special experience
It's very
all around.
soulful music.
Yeah,
It's very personal. It's very almost autobiographical.
yeah.
Saw Kurt Vile last night. You might like Kurt Vile if you like that kind of southern style of music. So, recommend. If you feel comfortable sharing, what is your biggest regret?
Ooh, probably not staying in school. College, like college, because I did have a great opportunity to go to school for free. To get a 4-year degree for free, which, as we know in the U.S., it's not cheap. If I want to do it, like it, but I mean, that's as much as I would like. I regret something, but I also understand there's circumstances around that made that difficult in hindsight. So, but I still want to do that one day. I still want to go to school anyway. But
You're young, you got time.
yeah.
I know friends growing up whose parents went to university when they were still raising kids in their 30s. Like, you got tons of time.
My grandmother did. I mean, definitely. I mean,
Hell yeah. Who is your favorite teammate?
Packer.
You don't get
current
to
all
answer the
time?
question.
Current or all time?
You choose. Yeah, I mean, you can say just all time. You can do whatever you want. Your favorite teammate of all time, and there you go.
Can't say current because it'd be too much contrary. All time, and they know it, is Geo. I love Geo to death. He's hilarious. He's wise and old. And he's good. So, not a whole lot of downsides with Geo. But he's also, like, he's seen me at my worst, and, like, he picked me up and built a team with me, even after he saw me at my worst. So, great guy all around.
You got to play on LAN with him.
Mm-hmm.
What would you be doing if you were not in esports? If you could choose anything outside of esports, what would you be doing?
Probably be going to school. I'd probably be finishing a 4-year degree, hopefully. But pursuing a degree in psychology. I have a lot of interest in psychology. I mean, I never got too far with it in school, so no, you have to get decently far, I think, till you get into the more specific niches of it. But I've always found that really interesting. I still want to do that even after Siege. But pursuing a degree in psychology, maybe even like a coaching or teaching role. I have a lot of interest in just understanding how we learn. So I think it's definitely you get an interesting view on it in esports because people, they stop learning or they, stop getting better and better,
When your playing career will inevitably wrap up at whatever age, go to school, become an esports psychologist, re-enter.
Yep.
There you go. The last question is maybe a bit strange. And again, these questions are not locked in yet, so we can workshop them, whether it's you have feedback, the viewer, or you guys yourselves have feedback. If you could say anything to your younger self, what would you say?
Man, go get tested for ADHD, bro. Like, I didn't know that till I didn't know I had this till like I was 19 or 20. It's like, damn. And I mean, that's like a very real thing that a lot of people experience. It's like you don't find out until, you're an adult or later, even, whatever age, like after you're an adult, and you just feel like, damn, I really could have done so much more. And that ties into this with the school thing partially. Probably that, yeah. Go get tested, bro. Go get tested a few times. You pass those screeners, but go get tested.
You study for the ADHD test. I'm gonna get it this time.
Yeah.
Drink 9 cups of coffee. Go in. The walls are buzzing. I feel that. Well, we treated you like a guinea pig with these questions. I appreciate you answering them. Again, if anybody has any feedback, anybody listening, anybody watching, if either of you have feedback, feel free to share it after the episode or in the comments down below. I'm always happy to amend those questions, but it's something I've always wanted to do, just very standardized questions, hoping to hear as many perspectives as possible, because I think while guests come on this show to share a lot, they're always coming from different points of views. They're always coming from different walks of life. There's going to be overlap, but I can guarantee if I ask these 10 questions to every single person who's been on this show, we would have a wealth of answers. The only ones that might have some overlap is like, how did you find Siege, or the operator questions, just because like some people are going to hate certain operators and most people's Siege story is very similar to yours. Like, oh, I saw it. I started playing it. So that one, if the how did you find Siege ends up being an uninteresting question and everybody has the same story, we might just end up yanking that question out then, because it's, unless people start to have compelling answers. The whole idea is to get a difference of opinions and a difference of viewpoints. So MikeW, thank you very much for joining us as our guest host. What we typically do when we end the show is we allow you the final words if you want to say anything before we wrap things up, and I take over and thank the audience. So final parting words for you before we Fett, we got a while to go, buddy. We got at least a couple minutes. You gotta hold that for a while. Anything to say to your adoring fans as you grace us for the second time in like 7 or 8 episodes now? The span of like 7 or 8 episodes you've been on.
Thank you all for, having me here. I love this type of stuff, and especially just doing content for Siege. I think it's really important. Thank you, people who have been supportive of our team and me. I think I've seen people on the subreddit and whatnot. I've gotten messages of people just supporting me, and I appreciate it a lot. I try to respond to all of them because it's not like I get much. I mean, shit, I'm not Drake, but no, thank you to everyone.
I don't think any of us are Drake, and I don't think if you put every single person in Siege together, we would rival Drake. So that's fair in terms of scope and reach.
Yeah, close though. It's close. Doty
Close.
and Drake, right there.
He's got a giant house here in Toronto, and very large hedges so you can't see in, which I think is the whole point. So with that said, I just want to say thank you, MikeW, for joining us as our kind of emergency guest co-host, because Kyle, at this point in time, will have already made his NAL debut, barring a sudden act of God preventing him from doing so. If you're watching this episode, it means that the NAL will be going live, assuming you watch it the moment it comes out, in just a couple hours. So be sure to tune into that. If you don't follow MikeW on social media, please do so. If you'll see on your screen, there will be his Twitter/X handle underneath it. Go over and give him a follow if he bothers to tweet, or I don't know. I barely use Twitter these days, so I don't know what people are tweeting other than when people send me silly things that Fett says. On behalf of everybody here on Down But Not Out, thank you to Fett for gracing us as well. Thank you to you for always viewing. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff really helps us out. Thank you, producer David. Thank you, Last Free Nation. And most importantly, thank you again for your continued support. We wouldn't be here without you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.